The Trevor Jackson Podcast.
Thank everybody for tuning in to the show. I have a person that I get a lot of education from. I listen to him on his show, Man Up a lot, and I'm very appreciative to have you on the show today. How are you doing today, Mr. Judge Joe Brown?
Well, you don't have to put the Mr. The judge is the
I know.
title, but I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm blessed, sir. I'm blessed. So, how the campaign going right now, Judge?
It's going all right. A lot of the
Mhm.
people that have been bought off and that are the, what shall we say, house boys and third floor bed winch types, they don't like me. And when you go to their sites, some of whom are running against me, you can see who bought them. There's
Yeah.
an app, actually. You don't have to have the app. You can go through them. It's called followthemoney.org.
Mm.
And you can enter in your favorite local politician or national one. And if they filed a report from their previous campaigning, you can see who has contributed or, in some instances, who's bought them.
Yeah, yeah. And who's funding their campaign? So you want the people to fund your campaign, not the people that's trying to
Mm-hmm.
control you and trying to control what they want done in Memphis.
Yeah, that's the problem. See, I also know where the closets are with the skeletons in them, and hell, I know where the damn graveyards are. And some people don't like that. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
it's time to make a change where someplace in this country the people actually get to run where they live
Hmm.
rather than having people that may even look like them that they've elected who don't really represent them. They're surrogates for someone or something else. It's
Yeah,
bad.
that's big right now too, man. Like with people that is of all color or whatever, they may say that they stand for us, but they may have somebody in their pockets filling their pocketbook up that ain't for the people as a whole.
That means you're owned by somebody.
Yeah, yeah. Now,
Boy, looky here, boy. I'm not pleased with what you've been doing. The money is funny. You got to explain how you see to earn your paycheck here. You're not doing it.
mm, mm.
Or, hey, man, what's going on? We be slinking you some ducats for the firm we work for. What's your problem, man? You ain't dealing with it.
Yeah, yeah. You ain't doing what you supposed to be doing. You ain't being obedient for
Yeah,
these
well,
finances.
interesting that we're going to have to reassess our contributions to your future prosperity because you just aren't delivering. So we need to see about that.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that Judge Joe Brown
Or
is running.
maybe, oh, Edward, what's going on with the issues? Do you think? And could you pass me some of the Chablis and some of those pink? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
goes that way too.
Oh man, that's crazy, man. I know that Judge Joe Brown, my podcast is an East Tennessee, North Carolina podcast, and he's running for the mayor of Memphis. But we can support, and we don't have to be in Memphis. He has the website, the Cash App is on the screen, and I'm here to support Judge Joe Brown. I want to see him become the next mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. But I got a hip hop question to ask you though, Judge Joe Brown. Like in Memphis might be the hotbed for hip hop right now. How is the artists and stuff giving back to the community? Or are they not giving back to the community? They contributed to the destruction of the community. What you got to say to that, Judge?
Before I answer that, you're gonna have to get me on for a part two. I'm approaching some of them about time to redeem yourself.
Ooh. That's big. Time to redeem yourself. What you mean by that though, Judge?
let's put it this way. There's some things I don't care how much money is involved. If you're a real man, you don't do. If you
Mm-hmm.
do, you better say to yourself, "Hey, I was wrong. I got to back out of this." So let's see who's been doing that and who is still doing wrong and who didn't realize they were doing wrong.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
for 50 some years, for a half century, we were up here with the Black Power thing, and now it's down here. And men being emasculated, the women are being insulted, things are being done to the children and grandchildren that are not healthy, and people, oh, I was doing for my art. Yeah, but watch what you do with your art. Some things you're not supposed to do because they are dysfunctional. One, two, they propagandize for somebody else, even if you don't realize it. And three, they make where you live a dangerous place that is not filled with prosperity. And you put the wrong image out. You're supposed to be telling people some wise things with your art, but
Yeah.
don't get them trapped up into, wow, they're all gonna do rhymes, because most of them can't do that. That's like highlight of your day is basketball. So what is that doing for you tomorrow? Are you 17, 18, 19 years old and you're 6'7" and you have great hand-eye coordination and you're athletic? Maybe. But most people, 5'7", 5'8", 9, 10, 11, and you don't have it, and you go out there and waste your time doing free throws every day. That's not doing anything for anybody. That's a distraction.
Why do we invest more in distractions than like education? Like people don't nowadays. I see like most folks want to get high. They want to be entertained. It ain't like fun to become knowledgeable no more.
We'll see. They've got it in our heads like, man, it ain't gonna be no big deal, man. Everything ain't gonna work, man. White supremacy got us down, man. What's the point? I'm gonna sit here on the couch, man, smoking a blunt, playing my vid games, man.
Yeah.
My women's take care of me any damn way. Dude, that is not being a man. That is a punked out play.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not being a man. At best, you a gigolo. What's a gigolo? That's a male hoe.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard you say
So,
women's plural. Plural.
mhm.
Yeah. My women's take care of me.
Yeah, and that's like, that is not a cool thing to do.
Mhm.
But some people think it is, and that's because this dysfunction's been spread. See, when I was in my 20s, what we heard about was manhood, duty, honor, responsibility, accountability, courage, bravery, and all
Yeah.
this other stuff. And now you talk about is pimps, hoes, drug dealers, murderers, thieves, gangers that don't know how to deal with what's going on.
Mhm.
Used to have a thing where, thanks to certain individuals, I'd have some made men, real made men, come talk to some of the people I'd put on probation in closed door sessions where the doors are locked and nobody's got on the shirt and tie and all of that. They'd say, we're in the manhood and you fools are sitting there poisoning your community instead of protecting it. Maybe
Yeah.
the soldiers, we have our battles and stuff, but we protect civilians. The old ladies can count on us for safety. The young ladies can count on us for safety. The elderly can count on us for help. And we're an alternative shadow government that provides these vital services and protections and these neighborhoods that are free from fear, even though they want to portray us as some other thing. But we promote manhood, and you're not promoting manhood. So that was always a good message, even if it
Mhm. Mhm.
aired.
That's like the main thing that I wanted to converse with you about. Because when I listen to your show, Man Up, you talk about masculinity a lot in multiple ways, and it be very educational to me. I'm 43, Judge, and like what I want to say, like I didn't grow up without a father. I grew up in a single parent home with just my mother, or whatever. But my uncle, he was the He was the first sergeant in Knoxville, Tennessee, the first black sergeant in Knoxville, Tennessee. So I looked up to him when I was growing up. But nowadays, I think like, why do the young black men don't, when they get pulled over by the police, they don't know how to be quiet, or they don't know how to conduct themselves, and then things just turn into, you know what I mean, some crazy stuff go on
Well,
after that.
let me say this: it's not just police;
Okay.
it's with each other. Me talking to you, 15% of what I'm saying to you consists of the words. 35% consists of the tone. 50% consists of body language, facial expression, and movements, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I watch young folk, and I said, man, they just don't know. This dude is like talking about he getting ready to kick this other guy's ass, and the other guy's talking about I'm about ready to hit you, but neither one of them's really been in a fist fight. They don't even realize what they're doing. Hey, back off, both of you. What you mean back off? Because you're about to do something you don't even know, because you're not in control of yourself and you aren't in control of yourself. Do you realize what you're saying to each other? And we say it to ourselves. We just keep ramping it up and making it more and more tense by the body language and the tone we use. And then when we get around cops, we do the same thing. And the cops have a problem too, because they haven't been taught masculinity. Now, when I was 20 years old, I'd been in a whole bunch of fist fights. So
Mm-hmm.
you kind of knew how it went. A lot of these cops have never been in a fist fight in their life, and a whole bunch of the black folk that they're dealing with have never been in one either. And the favorite story, what did dude run for? I was scared. Why? You know, you stand there and deal with it unless you're trying to escape from something. I had a lot of clients used to escape. Yeah, I pulled it off. Yeah, man, I thought I got away, man.
Yeah.
But okay, that's different than, oh, I was scared. Why? The police do us wrong. Oh, man, you buy all that crap.
Yeah.
Plus, man up and stand up.
Yeah. They
You
got a
know,
job to do. They just doing their job. You just, is folks scared to go to jail, or they, or what's
no, it's not scared to go to jail. They're just scared of the police because they identify the police with white. And the truth of the matter is they're scared of white folk. So they like to talk about, a lot of them, white supremacy, because they're scared of white folk. And a lot
Mhm.
of them talk a good game until you get face to face, and they won't.
Yeah.
I look, I've said this many times, and I'd have motions to suppress, and it's recorded. I'm looking at this guy in my courtroom. He's being an OG. Yeah, man, I'm down with the posse, man. It's like this, man. They trying to put a case on me, man. You know, it ain't like that, man. I'm upholding.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm looking at the video, and I come back out and I said, the court looked at the video along with counsel for defense and the prosecution.
Mhm.
The officers advised the defendant 11 times that he should ask for an attorney. 9 times they suggested it to him strongly, and frankly, the defendant wanted his mama, and he begged for his mama. They continuously advised him that you can't have your mother in here. And they go, I want my mama. Just my mama come here. I tell you what, your mom,
Yeah.
please let me talk about mama. I said, well, son, you're 29 years old. You're not entitled. Your mama's not a member of the bar. No, she can't. Sir, you really should talk to a lawyer before you make any further statements. This is very,
Mhm.
what he's saying is they didn't read me my rights. They didn't do nothing. And they sat there and they threatened me.
But
No,
they
they,
had to repeat themselves
yeah,
multiple times.
multiple times. You need to get a lawyer.
Mhm.
So, and then he's told on everybody. Yeah, me know when man, this stomp short dog, little man, rape up man, and you know, it wasn't me. I'll give you them, man. Just let me go and see my mama, man.
Yeah.
And he got snot running all down his face like a punk, tears run all over his
Now,
front of it, wet all up. And I'm looking, what's wrong with this punk, man?
yeah,
And then you
that's
went in there
crazy.
being OG for bad, and see, no, he's just scared of white folks. So somebody have won it several times. Are you afraid, young man, because I'm a white officer? Well, let me go get a black officer.
Yeah, I don't want to deal
Black
with you.
Now, are you scared of me? I'm black. Well, man, what you got, man? You understand, man? You black, man. You know what it means to talk to your mama. No, I don't understand what that means. You know, why don't you talk to a lawyer? Because you're going to be back in here hollering about your rights are violated. So the cops talking to him like that. I'm going, man, okay. See, and I know this. For the last half century, 97+ percent
Ooh.
of people in the penitentiaries pled guilty. They didn't get found guilty by a jury. Less than 3% of the people in the penitentiaries got a guilty verdict.
Yeah. Even if they
84.
wasn't guilty or not yet, they went on and pled, I'm guilty.
Yeah, but then the other thing is 84 to 87% confessed. And like things in Memphis, you want to get the breakdown on the white supremacy in Memphis?
Yes, sir.
In Memphis, only 19.1% of the registered voters are white. 60% of the criminal court judges are black. 60%, if you include the white ones in there, 60% of the criminal court judges are female. 65% of the jury pool is black. You have 65% of the police officers are black. The fire chief is a black female. The police chief is a black female. The sheriff is a black guy. The prosecutor is the first Democratic prosecutor we've had in decades. So what exactly is the problem? This looks like black power. But what are you talking about? I mean, this is the 14th largest city in America. It's predominantly black. You got black all across the board. This ought to be black power. So how's that white supremacy unless the black officials are playing houseboy and third floor bed wench on a plantation situation, and they're not representing their people. And then 65% of the jury pool is black. Isn't that supposed to deliver black justice?
You when you said 65% female. When you said,
Well, no, 65% black of the jury pool.
Yeah.
So that's more equally divided between male and female. But the problem is that you're not doing anything for black power if you continuously look for ways to get out of jury service. You're not doing black power when you sit there and you're voting for the interest of somebody else, not the people that elected you. So how is that white supremacy when you have the classic formula for black power? You have the numbers.
The numbers say it's black power.
Yeah, you have the numbers in Memphis that back in the 60s, everybody was praying for or fighting for or talking about or trying to bring about. So you have it now. How is that white supremacy unless your leadership is selling you out?
Yeah, they selling you out, or either you're hindering yourself, basically. They hindering themselves. But you caught my attention with a lot of things you said, Judge, that I got questions to ask you about. It's like when you're talking about the guy balling down crying and stuff, and I know you was a criminal court judge.
I was also a criminal defense lawyer, and one time back in the mid-70s, I was the chief public defender. And as a matter of fact, I became the first black prosecutor for the city of Memphis. That's been long ago. And, you know, I look at what's going on, and I've done everything around. So got the youngest person in the world on death row off. Got the Arkansas Supreme Court unanimously to set aside his conviction. I mean, he was supposed to have been 13 when he murdered 3 people, 2 elderly white women and 1 white kid who was supposed to be a classmate. He was 15 years and 2 months when they were going to execute him, and we got a stay 23 minutes before they were supposed to do him in.
Yeah.
So it
I know.
goes from there. I had 42 first-degree murder cases I tried as a defense lawyer when I was training the capital defense team for the public defender's office later.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot of stuff. So I'm looking at all of this and I say, what did I learn? And you learn a few things. And one of the things that you have to learn is nobody respects you if you won't stand up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody respects you if you won't go to bat for them. And I tell criminal defense lawyers, now I'm a judge, but I'm going to tell you this. If you're not willing to go risk or actually get contempt in the vigor of your defense, you're not shit for a defense lawyer. And most of the good ones have been held in contempt.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And the judges that will do that vary. Some of them are jerks, some of them are good.
Mm-hmm.
Juries are like that. Out of every 5 juries, 3 of them are excellent. One of them, the other one is a bunch of idiots that you
Mm-hmm.
wonder if they took the short bus to school. So, I mean, it's humanity. And then
Yeah.
it doesn't help when I can't serve on a jury. Why? And you listen to some, really? No,
Mm-hmm.
that will be denied. You stand. Let's see if you go through it. We need you.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, the court has encountered you before. Aren't you one that's always saying justice is just us? Well, there's a chance so it won't be that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Judge, like, it's Black History Month, right? And they got all type of stuff going on in Florida. I don't know what to think about this conversation that's being had in Florida about
Black studies versus black history.
and queer theory. Why is that even being?
See, this is the weak folk don't want Black History talk because they want it to be a month of celebration.
Mm-hmm.
History doesn't have a damn thing to do with celebration because a lot of it, you'd be crazy if you celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
History is studied simply to, one, learn its lessons so you can apply it to your current conduct so your tomorrow will be what you want it to be rather than something else.
Mm.
If it doesn't do that, it's not history. If you're talking about somebody, black male being a ballerina, okay, fine, but teach that in theater arts. That's not black history.
That's
If
true.
you talk about the sociology of gay pride, that's sociology, not black history. If you're talking all of these kind of things, black queer theory, that's psychology. That has nothing to do with black history. So they
Yeah.
try to morph this into black studies and take all of these things that ought to be in completely separate departments and they try to put them in black history and then change black history to black studies. It doesn't do anything for us because just like Black History Month doesn't really do much for us because
Yeah.
you know why? We do not get into it to study the lessons of the past so we can apply it to the
Today.
present
Yeah.
to shape the future. We talk about this, that, and the other person did this, that, and the other. So what? What does it mean? We
Mm-hmm.
never talk about what it means, but we should talk about what it means.
Mm-hmm. So now, me listening to you say that, I like the governor, DeSantos. I think that's his name. He just said that he shot it down. He didn't say that he was excluding Black history studies out of
He
the,
said he actually approved of black history. He
but
just said not
queer
gay theory,
theory.
queer
Yeah.
theory.
But the black folks is coming down on them for that though. And
Well, but you see, that's because they allowed themselves through ignorance to be co-opted.
ooh, talk to me, Judge.
If you're ignorant, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. You don't know
You'll
what
let yourself be co-opted, and somebody who's not your friend will use and abuse you.
mm-hmm.
And ignorance is interesting. You see, nowadays, anybody can write anything. There's no vetting like there used to. So some of the biggest dummies going have a lot of writing out there. So they're always quoting somebody. What is your authority? Me. What do you
Mm-hmm.
mean you? Who did you rely on? Me, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
smart. those folk. I was there. I participated in it. I saw it. I'm an eyewitness. I've had decades worth of study on it. I just
Yeah.
haven't written a book about it. Well, so and so, I don't care what they said. Like I'll give you an example of idiocy.
Talk to me, Joe.
It's obvious that this was so and so, and what the judge meant was so and so and so. No, it didn't. Yes, he did. That's what they said in the newspaper, blah, blah, blah. Well, the newspaper's full of crap too. But no. Dude, read the damn thing. Did you read it? Yeah, no, you didn't. Because if you had, you would have known that I wrote it. So you're trying to tell me what I meant based on what somebody who doesn't have a clue is telling you I meant. Oh, what's the matter with you? Well, man, I graduated from a major law school at the top. Damn. That's been a half century ago, folks.
Valedictorian.
I've done a whole lot of stuff out there. They didn't have valedictorian in college. That's high school.
High school. I've read. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm talking about, man, I've done it all in the
continuous education.
You're going to tell me that you'd believe some jackass, 23 years old, who's got 3 years of college, got because his mama was dealing with somebody, got him a job with a newspaper, and he can't write worth a damn because the syntax and a whole lot of stuff is wrong. And you're going to tell me that he knows more about what I said than I did? Oh, come on, dude.
Yeah, that's idiot. That's crazy to even think like that. But that's what people do now. That we live in one of my friends told me we live in a clickbait era. People will say anything to get clicks, to get attention.
And if you're really saying something, you won't get as many as you ought to because they will block you, shadow block you, suppress you, mislead you. Kwame Brown and I did a thing this week, and we did one months ago. And the one we did months ago got up to 9.2 million views. We saw it, screenshot it, and then they started knocking it down because they didn't want too many people. Oh man, what's this 9.2 million? I need to check this out. So this 9.2 million got knocked down to about 1.4. Like you can't
notice that, Judge. I noticed videos of mine like be doing that. It'll be one number, and then I'll wake up in the morning, it'll be gone. All the numbers.
Yeah. So they don't want anybody to look at it because you're not matching their agenda. See, the free press now is not free press. If you're actually trying to engage in a meaningful discussion or something, they'll block you. Take the favorite one they've had about misleading false reports about election fraud, non-existent election fraud. Well, as in Memphis, Shelby County, we had deballed voting machines installed in the year 2000. 2006, the Justice Department did a report on it. 2008, not only did they do a report, they put the money up to replace the hopelessly corrupted, hacked voting machines that could not deliver a fair election.
Yeah.
They did the same finding because they didn't put any more money up. It was in the bank for the county, but they didn't use it because every year for the last 15 years, since 2008, at least 3 Black Democratic members of the county commission voted against replacing the machines. So under the Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden administrations, they've said in Memphis, Shelby County, and there are 1.5 million folk here in Shelby County.
Yeah.
They've said there has not been a fair election since 2000. So that's one of the larger urban areas in America. And yet with a straight face, we hear Associated Press, UPI, the White House, the Democratic Party say they're lying, making false statements about election corruption. It didn't happen, but they just released a report a few months ago saying the thing is still like it was.
Yeah.
So it looks like the county commission was put on notice that somebody was going to sue them about it. They didn't want that.
So they
So
get
they finally replaced the voting machines with some new machines that got used in the November midterm election. And there were some other things on the ballot, and some of the results were surprising. Why? Because they didn't match the voting profile that had been in place with hacked machines. All you needed was a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this
Mm-hmm.
the thing was online because California didn't want anybody else using the machines, Hawaii or Ohio or
Yeah,
Florida either. So it wound up that the last county in America that used these machines was Shelby County here in Tennessee. That's Memphis. And
wow.
also in Tennessee was Haywood County. So Haywood stopped 4 years ago.
That's in
But
West Tennessee also, isn't it? Haywood.
yeah, that's the next one over. Haywood, Fayette, Shelby.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that's interesting is the county commission's talking about they're going to have to raise taxes in order to recoup the money to replace the machines. But hey, what happened to the money the feds put up 15 years ago? What did you do with that?
Raise how does Tennessee doesn't have a state tax. What tax would they be raising, Judge?
Sales tax shares. See,
Oh.
the local area can add a little on for the sales tax, and the local area gets a percentage of the property taxes. They can't just necessarily raise that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a share of business tax, which they can levy an income tax on the the business income.
Yeah.
And on that, by the way, in Shelby County, certain of these scoundrels who have been bought off
Mm-hmm.
try to claim that the way to bring money into the city is to spend best of just about all of it for property tax, not property, to deal with tourism so you can enhance sales taxes.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a zero sum that doesn't work for anybody's good except the people who get it and the ones that get the dash under the table and nowadays on top of the table. So it's a bad thing in Shelby County. We've got the Mississippi River down here that flows 24/7 and shall for the next 1.5 million years or so. There's
Yeah.
no reason why we can't take these modular hydroelectric generators that the Asians use to put down in tidal flows and generate a lot of electricity.
Yeah.
3/4 to 7/8 of the expense is based on storage facilities since tides go in, slack tide for some hours, tides go out, and it varies depending upon the time of the month and year.
Yeah.
Well, the Mississippi flows continuously, so we could have continuous generation of electric power. And get this, you don't have to build any concrete emplacements. You can fix them to the bottom of raft, floats, whatever, drop them down in the river. You can make it so they go up and down for maintenance. They're not big enough to cause any navigation hazard. The Corps of Engineers wouldn't have any problem with it. We
Yeah.
could use a lot of the money that's wasted on tourism and we could sink it into leveraging this stuff out, getting some bond issues on Wall Street, and establishing an area in Tennessee where we could rid ourselves of the dependency on fossil fuels without putting anybody out of work, bring in massive industry, trade, and distribution here.
It's already a distribution hub, really. I wonder why the tech giants ain't came to Memphis yet,
Well,
because
they're trying to, but they're being kept out because the big fish in the medium-sized pond would be small fish in a very big pond, and they don't want them in here. And
mm,
there haven't been any bribe avenues. Now, Tennessee is weird because black folk, thanks to Boss Crump,
mm-hmm.
in the last century, the vote never got taken away, and it was exempt from the enforcement provisions of the Voting Rights Act. Boss Crump was an enterprising person. He got sent here by Robert Church's daddy, who was a white plantation owner, one of the wealthiest in Mississippi, who
Yeah.
was concerned about his son having the properties that Daddy Church, was giving him taken away. So he decided to stop that. So he sent this enterprising young white lawyer named Crump to protect a person who became one of the first black millionaires in America. And
So he
Crump,
basically bought him out, didn't he, when he came up?
yeah, Crump became Boss Crump because he figured out that the best way to do it is to get together a black bloc vote that he could control and match it with the white minority that he could bring in. He didn't have a white majority. So with the minority of whites and the black bloc vote, he ran Tennessee politics for a half century.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he
by financing people to do his agenda. That's what
well, yeah, and see, he used to have black power brokers. So he would pay them, give them a lump sum of money, and they would be responsible for delivering the election, and they would pocket most of it and spend a small part of it for the delivery. Now, I read a person's diary that was a famous vote broker around in Memphis. And he recites in there in the 20s, late 20s, how he was given $10,000 by Boss Crump to deliver the black bloc vote. He said he spent about $4,400 and pocketed the rest. Now, 10,000 would be worth about 2.5, 3 million now.
in the 20s.
Yeah, so well, maybe 5 or 6. So what happens is he made a couple of million off the deal, and he talks about something interesting that says a lot negative about us. He said to get this vote, he gave all of the prospects a slice of watermelon, a shot of bootleg whiskey, and a shiny coin. And he says he was amazed that some ignorant black folk would rather have a shiny dime, no, or rather have a shiny nickel than a shiny dime, because they thought the bigger piece was worth more money than the smaller piece. So you gave one dime, a shot of whiskey, and a slice of watermelon, and you get somebody's vote. So you just spent 4 cents worth of money in those days
to have control over
God, yeah,
uh,
3 or
over
4.
them.
He used to laugh in his diary, talking about some of them were 2-cent Negroes and some of them went up to 4-cent Negroes. And he was talking about how much it cost to get their vote.
Now, does that have a like? I got some educational questions to ask you about education in Memphis and just education overall. But like, does that have to do with the lack of education? People accepting that, people accepting the shot of liquor and the nickel over the dime. We would right back to education, Judge. Do you think it have like? Does education need to be modified nationwide and in Memphis? How is the school system
Well,
there?
let me say this. You remember my show for 15 years.
Yes, sir.
Most of what I used to rule didn't come out of law school. I learned it in the 5th and 6th grade in elementary school. And it amazes me now. I talk to young folk and they've never heard of it. What? You didn't get this in elementary school? And I have friends that are principals, retired principals, and they'd invite me in and say, look, Joe, come check this out. Wow, that's really dumb. What are they trying to teach them? I don't know. We can't control it.
Yeah.
And it's bad when you get that. And then the lawyers, they just want to make money these days, and they didn't pay attention to the fine points of constitutional law. And in Tennessee, for example, on the bar, when I took the bar, you didn't have to pass criminal law. You didn't have to pass citizen oriented constitutional law. You didn't have to pass any of these things. The part of the bar you had to pass had to deal with estate taxation, corporate income matters, and things like that. And to be real, 50 years as lawyer or judge, I don't ever think I've had a case that I had to deal with that was on the part of the bar that was mandatory. So just what were they testing? And some of the things they ask now, it's like, where in the world did you come up with these and what were you trying to do? And the reasons they have are not good ones. And then
Yeah.
there's the thing of they want emotion in the curriculum. So they don't teach logic, rationality, reason, analysis, and hardcore objectivity anymore.
They want us to be emotional all around the board nowadays, just like sensitive, soft, and just in our feelings all the time, instead of being realistic about stuff, man.
Yeah, that's one of the problems down in the hood. A whole bunch of emotional boys that didn't have the detachment and objectivity fed into them. And so when they became a man, they didn't act like men.
That's true. That's true. And then by them listening to hip hop music and stuff, and then the biggest artists have on dresses nowadays. Like you got the Young Thug had a dress on, the Kid Cudi, the I forgot Rihanna's baby daddy name, ASAP Rocky. All of them wearing dresses now. That it just seemed like it's ain't no masculine people being celebrated at all.
Well, let's put it this way. Some of them are real men. Some of them are wise.
Hmm.
Snoop Dogg, very wise guy. I used to talk to his mother a lot. We were working on some projects out in LA.
Hmm.
And his mother had a master's degree working on a PhD. And she used to talk about, brag about how smart Snoop was. He actually is, but she talked about how he felt compelled to develop street cred and downplay that and get this cool act. Okay, he's smart. He's a
Hmm.
man. But a lot of the rest of them, if you actually saw them, you'd say, wait a minute, what is this? And these guys were having this street cred battle, and it was because they did 6 months together and they were lovers, and they can, oh man,
Oh
wow.
man, yeah, they they became lovers in prison or in jail or
Oh,
whatever.
jail. They
Yeah,
didn't really go to a prison,
yeah.
a workhouse, and it's okay.
Mm.
That's your business. Get your freak on in your bedroom, but don't try to bring that other thing out. And by the way, a secret, LGBTQ is not synonymous with homosexuality or vice versa. A lot of gay folk think LGBTQ is a cult. Now, some might
Mm.
deny it because before they get wise, but I still know a lot of those people out in California from working with them for 15 years. And as they claim, and it's not untrue, 9 out of every 10 are, and you get one out
Yeah,
of 10 not.
yeah.
Sometimes they get clumped together. But here's what I got told. LGBTQ is a cult. And it's like if you're Islamic, that does not mean you supported Al Qaeda, ISIS, or what happened on 9/11.
That's true.
If you're a Christian, that does not mean you want to sanctify Reverend Jim Jones and think that for communion, the congregation ought to be drinking Kool-Aid at a large church picnic in Guyana,
Yeah.
okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Or sacrificing yourself, Rance Davidian down in
Mhm.
Texas. So just because you are doesn't mean you're part of the cult.
Yeah. Why do we get caught up in all these titles, Judge? Like, oh,
It's popularized. Now, 55 years ago, we were taught in political propaganda. I had a science major, but I had political science as a minor.
mm-hmm.
And I wound up having to declare it a major because there was a little problem about Ronald Reagan get elected governor, and the catalog went from that thick down to like that. And
Mm-hmm.
people were having to wait for months to get a course, and Uncle Sam was saying, we have a great thing for you. We want you to have a nice paid opportunity to learn the topography and geography of a place called the Nam.
Mm-hmm.
So
Man,
it
that's
was what it was. So I wound up with a political science major, but we got taught these propaganda methods,
mm-hmm.
and that's one of them.
That's the reason we have all these titles. We accepted
Yeah,
that we need to be something. We
Yeah,
have to be something. We want to.
that's it. Everybody wants to be something. So you give them some kind of label, and
Yeah.
then you turn around, and when somebody actually earns it, you try to deal with it. Right
Mhm.
now, you notice everybody is called by their first name. A 16-year-old working at Mickey D's calls a 75-year-old grandmother or grandfather by her first name.
Yeah.
That would never be. You know why? That's an attempt to downplay actual earned status.
Mm.
Interesting. It makes everybody look equal. I ain't disrespecting myself by calling nobody sir or ma'am. Oh, excuse me, the court might make this observation that the people who have the largest incomes, the court's looking at their bios, are saying, sir, thank you, ma'am, please, may I? No, ma'am, no, sir, I don't understand, please repeat that. And you going, yeah, whatever, nah. And sir, I hate to embarrass, the court hates to embarrass you, but you got the lowest income in the room here,
Yeah.
the worst employment record. So why don't you take a look at what those people are about who have been successful and take it as a key to said, I don't feel like, well, tell you what, Officer Williams, would you see if your kid still working lockup, and maybe we can give this prospective juror an opportunity to reflect on his lack of home training or the exhibit thereof and see how well that impacts him. And then once you do that, he straightens up. He starts saying, sir, please, may I? And I said,
Mhm.
polite people do that. Remember what I just said about the body language and how
Yeah.
folk ramp it up with each other? See, powerful people who are armed or very able at killing or fighting, they
Mhm.
tend to be very polite with each other unless it's WWE,
Yeah.
and they tend to
That's true.
be best friends outside of the game plan. And by the way, New York makes that part of its theater arts regulation rather than athletic regulation. So, word up.
Mhm.
But it is what it is. So, take heed, show respect. The most powerful people in the world are respectful
Oh.
and polite to each other. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with being polite. It's because when somebody is capable of vesting consequence,
They know
they,
the danger of it. They are.
yeah, they deal with people on their level, so everybody's polite.
They act accordingly. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Judge, like I was going to ask you this earlier because I know you did a lot of things in the criminal art, the criminal aspect. We have artists, music artists now, self snitching on themselves in records. That's what I see. They telling on themselves. That's my perception of it. And now we have promotion, the people promoting it worldwide. Should they use lyrics in the court of law?
Well, they can't just necessarily. You
Hmm.
have to lay a foundation. You have to make it relevant and material. And if you do, yes. But sometimes, for example, relevance and materiality.
Hmm.
And would you like to tell the tribunal how you came to learn this was the individual that
Mm.
committed this wrong against you?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Please. Well, he was posting it on Facebook and Instagram, and he was showing the stolen property.
Hmm. Mm.
So that's how you learned who to go find for purposes of this civil action.
Yeah.
And saying that compounds it because the defendant is the one that actually stole the property, not just came into possession. Well, that's what he was saying. Well, that looks like a proper foundation. We can consider that. Or talking about telling on themselves before they got all of this, there were 5 people in there for first degree murder. They'd done a drive by. 3 of them were juveniles.
Hmm.
You know how they got caught?
How'd they get caught, Judge?
Damn fool Xeroxed the articles about the homicide, the drive-by that was in the Commercial Appeal, did 250 copies at Kinko's, and they were autographing the things. We did it.
That's crazy. So digital evidence nowadays is just as valuable as physical evidence, ain't it?
Maybe.
Okay. I just wanted to know that.
You have to deliver a foundation. See, you can't make a foundation without somebody's testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like police reports, accident reports, that's inadmissible, especially in Tennessee. You can't admit an accident report because it's hearsay. You
Yeah.
can only have the officer refer to it to refresh his recollection of what somebody actually said that impacted their own standing, not somebody else's, because that's hearsay.
Ooh.
The cop didn't witness the accident. He can't testify to it. Not saying it might not happen, but nobody was there to object.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't testify. He can to the accident, but he can testify what somebody has confessed. Not this guy ran through the red light and hit me.
Yeah.
I was on my cell phone when I entered the section. I didn't see it. Now that's admissible, but not the guy didn't see me and it's his fault. But I was on the cell phone relative to the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
That's admissible. But the cop's conclusion as to what happened is not, because he's not a witness. You can have a video recording, but they have to lay a foundation, and laying that foundation is testimonial. And the other thing is, these modern devices are less than 2.5 decades old.
Yeah,
20 years old. So
2007, that's when iPhone came out. It ain't even 20 yet.
yeah. So what happens is, for a couple of thousand years, the evidence was testimonial.
Mm-hmm.
You heard it, saw it, felt it, smelt it.
Yeah.
Read it.
How like people are surprised in the Young Thug case that people are taking pleas and snitching and stuff like that. That happens more often than people think it is. Could you give us a percentage when you was in
Most
court?
of the time, I said 84 to 87% of the cases in America, and that's been a
Or
statistic
testimonial?
gone for a half century. Somebody confessed. And in most of the cases, all this loyalty to the posse, that goes out the window.
That's right out the window.
But then the occasional person will
Mm-hmm.
keep their mouth shut. We had a series of murders. We had somebody representing the Mexican cartels, somebody representing the Colombian cartels, somebody representing one side took out a hit on the other side, wound up kidnapping and killing one guy's mama, and his boys went and kidnapped two members of the posse of the other side, also kidnapped their mothers, beat the hell out of their mothers, and buried their mothers and the guy alive, two separate burials under caskets. So the mother was beat up, jacked up, bones broken, but still alive and breathing. And they buried her and her son, who was a member of the posse, who was alive and well, but watched his mama get jacked up. And they both suffocated under the coffin in the funeral. So that's how we were rolled. Now, the person that took the hits out, everybody knew who that was, but you couldn't do anything because she and her lieutenant, they just said, we take the Fifth Amendment, go to hell. I don't have anything to say. And in American law, you cannot convict somebody on uncorroborated evidence of an accomplice.
Mm-hmm.
So one took the hits out. One made sure the hit got carried out. And the rest of them, they got caught because one of them was bragging about it to would-be girlfriend who was a junkie, and she worked out a deal in return for not being prosecuted for being in possession of large quantities of drugs as a mule.
Mm-hmm.
So she told on him. He got scared, told on himself and all his homies. They brought everybody in and they confessed. And the people that took the hit out or had it arranged, they just said, I want my lawyer, screw you. There's nothing you can do to them.
Yeah, because the concrete thing is the verbal agreement, ain't it? That's what I'm
No,
learning.
it's not the verbal agreement. In this case, they chose not to make a statement. And you have a right to remain silent, and exercising that right cannot be held against you.
And
So they just said, I know my rights. I'm not saying a damn thing. Get me a lawyer. And they wrote it out. If you get me a lawyer, you know,
yeah,
they didn't say anything, but the other folk on trial, we had 6 separate first-degree murder trials on this. So what they did is there was supposed to be several million in cash flow coming through this safe house operated by one gangster's mama and lived in by his mama and daddy. And they had some used car lots that they were using to launder money through.
mm-hmm.
So the several $million came through the house. And what had happened is the other side that produced the ones that were on trial in my courtroom hijacked the Krispy Kreme truck, kidnapped the workers, stole their uniforms, dressed up in the uniforms, drove the Krispy Kreme truck by this particular safe house for the other gang where the money was being stored. And the mother was rather voluminous and she liked donuts. So when she saw, and they knew it, so when she saw the Krispy Kreme donut truck and they were offering sample donuts for a new Krispy Kreme shop, she opened the door, let them in. They tied her up, tied her husband up, jacked him up, brought in a pneumatic hammer, like you see him working on the streets. They had a safe buried in the floor, embedded in concrete, and they dug it up. And they didn't get but a couple of $100 because they were 45 minutes too late on the several million. So they kidnapped the woman, the mother of the person that was head of that posse, and they were torturing her, suffocating her, and then letting her breathe, suffocating until she passed out, let her breathe. She wound up swallowing her tongue, so they just went ahead, killed her off, and deliberately left her body in the middle of a field down in Mississippi.
And this was in Memphis.
This is in Memphis, so the other individual who was the target wouldn't cooperate with the police. His boys found his mama's body, and that's when he did the thing, including kidnapping 2 members of the hit team's posse and mothers of each of the 2 members of the posse that produced the hit team. So he jacked up the mothers, broke bones and all that stuff, and they were suffering. So he buried them alive along with the sons who had watched their mothers get their bones broken up, and they all suffocated under the coffins. There were 4 of them. So, I mean, they rolled like that.
Man, has Memphis crime always been this high, or is it just now getting national?
And it's the first-degree murder capital of the world. And if you look at something like John Grisham's old firm, they shot it here. Well, there's a great deal to be said about that. We had a certain prominent barbecue place here with great ribs.
Yeah.
They expanded to having several restaurants that had 5-star service. Waiters were great. I used to represent the girlfriend of one of the maitre d's, and I didn't charge her for her divorce. So he treated me real well. So it's one of these places that was open until 2 o'clock every night. But after 7:30, they closed the cash register, and they would take checks, out of town checks with no ID and cash, but no credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard that the money was funny. Now, 2 weeks later, the guy that was the owner, he was headed home from one of the restaurants. It was about 3:30, 3:45 in the morning. He
Mm-hmm.
was on I-55 at Shelby Drive here in Memphis, and he died in a one-car wreck. No witnesses. Tragic. Thursday night, his general manager died an eighth of a mile on I-55 just past Shelby Drive going to Mississippi in a one-car wreck, no witnesses. Friday night, his chief accountant died where the first one died at Shelby Drive, 3:30 something in the morning, one car wreck, no witnesses, or
Leaving
trial
work.
incidents or a planned first-degree murder.
Planned.
Now, his daughter messed the ribs up and stuff because she started boiling them to
Yeah.
save time. These guys used to have big, huge wrought iron doors the size of a regular interior door.
Open ribs. They wasn't balling them, was it?
No, and they had a whole long concrete corridor with 24 of these doors, and they would put 2 bags of charcoal on the floor, and then at the very top, they would have the ribs hung vertically,
Yeah.
and they let them cook for 24 hours. And then when they finished up cooking for 24 hours, they'd put them in a smoke den for 12 more hours. I mean, you literally could bite straight through the
Through the
bones and
bone.
not hurt yourself. Not pull the meat off.
Yeah.
Bite the bones and eat the bone too if you wanted to.
Yeah. Oh.
Outstanding cue.
Yeah. Now, the question I got for you: when am I going to be able to go to a Harris Teeter, a Food Line, a Publix, or a Whole Foods, or somewhere here in North Carolina and pick up some of the sauce you selling, Judge?
Spreading. We are in 438 stores in California, and we are working up deals. We've only been doing this 2 years, and we are way ahead of the schedule because we've been winning all of these blind taste testing episodes. Now, I came up with a formula. There's a guy we call Chef Damon. He was something else, and then he decided he wanted to cook, so he became a cook. So he and I collaborated on the taste, but I did it the old time way, and he did it a way we changed things around so you could buy it in Whole Foods or Sprouts, and it was certified as being health food. Nothing objectionable.
Yeah.
No meat products in it.
Oh, that's
And
good. So a vegan can eat it also.
yeah.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, in the works, we have this near meat stuff that we're going to make links out of. So you can get the barbecue if you live in California and standard grocery stores and stuff like that, Sprouts, Whole Foods, and that kind of thing. It's spreading across the country. We will be offering chicken links, and they're delicious. And they're put up by a sister who runs the only Black-owned USDA certified meatpacking plant in California. And if you want to wash it down, we're also in association with Miss Michelle Dukes, a good sister out of California, who runs a distillery.
Oh, yeah.
And they produce a smooth bourbon known as Poppy's, Papi''S, after her granddaddy, who was a moonshiner down in Mississippi. And you can order that too, and that's spreading around the country, and it's some smooth stuff.
We got to get that. We got to get that sauce in the Carolinas first, though.
You will get it, but you can order it online at JJB BBQ, that's barbecue.com.
Yeah.
And it comes single bottles, 3-packs, and carton or pallet, depending upon how much you want. And I would suggest that if you aren't professionally cooking or running a restaurant, you'll get it in the 3-pack since that's most economical for the shipping.
Yeah.
And we've got some contracts we've signed about white labeling it. What's white labeling? Well, we provide the product to a grocery chain, so they sell it under their name, but we provide it.
Yeah.
So that is spreading. And right now, a certain electric truck driving concern that drives great trucks is, we've signed a contract with them. They're going to be selling it through their agency too. So it'll be in stores, but we are about 7 years ahead of the game, the way it works in getting this project out. It's pretty good. And if you're in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
go down in the hood to 79th and Western. I used to not live too far from there.
That's Crenshaw, near Crenshaw area.
No, 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 no.
I just left. I went to LA for my second time in my life on my anniversary with my wife. I'm trying to view it with
No,
myself.
it's south and east of Crenshaw.
Yeah.
Way south and east. Crenshaw area is way over Western. You go Main Street, and you get to Crenshaw, and then you would be going down from 79th. The next street you'd run into would be Slauson, and then you go to
Slauson is a long street, isn't it?
Yeah, it goes east and west.
Yeah.
So
That's why I'm getting confused.
79th runs east and west, and Western runs north and south. So it would be Crenshaw, several streets over, you get to Western, and then you keep going down, you get to Broadway, etc. So 79th Street would be in what used to be South Central. Crenshaw wasn't in South Central.
Yes, sir.
Crenshaw became hood, but at one time it wasn't. But 79th and Western was hood. That became South Central.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was living in it, they hadn't come up with the term. So I was in high school in the early 60s.
Was it gang violence back then, Judge, in the early?
Yeah, we had Slausons, Dale Vikings, businessmen, Bobtown, De La Soul, all kinds.
But it wasn't Crips and Bloods, though, was it?
No, what happened was we had the 65 uprising, and then nobody was mad anymore. I remember my girlfriend used to live about 5 to 6 blocks from where the stuff started on 122nd, 26th Street. So I was going to visit her. She wasn't home. Her mama asked me to go to the store for her.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the corner store, just walked down the street. And as I'm coming out, some dude standing out there. Hey, man, where you from? I'm from Bobtown, man. What up? Oh, you cool, man. Where you from? Bobtown.
Yeah.
Where you from? De La Soul, man.
Yeah.
Okay, you cool. Where you from? I'm businessman, man. You got a problem with that? No,
Yeah.
that's all right. What you, man? I'm Slauson, man. In, make your run, man. Pow, pow, pow. Popped some caps on him. He didn't hit him. Now, we had that uprising in August 1965. We called it the uprising, not a riot.
Mm-hmm.
We ran LAPD out of there, and they wouldn't come back in unless they were riding 5 deep in those old time cars. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And black on black homicide dropped way down. So for the next 18 months in South, what was now being called Watts,
Mm-hmm.
which wasn't beforehand. Watts was 103rd Street, and some clown had put some trash together to make Watts Towers, which was supposed to be art, but it wasn't. So it was known as Watts. Man, you in Watts, man. No, man, I live on 102nd. I don't live on 103rd.
Yeah.
But then, man, I'm from Watts. Where you from? 42nd and Broad. Man, it ain't Watts.
Yeah.
But anyway, they got to calling it that after the uprising, the Watts riot, they called it. But what happened is all the frustration, hostility, and aggression evaporated. There were only 2 black on black homicides in a year and a half. And that was boyfriend, girlfriend, and husband-wife situation.
Yeah.
The rapes dropped to 0, burglaries dropped to 0, assaults dropped to 0, robberies dropped to 0. The LAPD wouldn't show their face up in there. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the gangs died. There were no gangs. Everything was going up. Then we had a problem with us in what they were doing, meaning Marlon Orion Karingas, us. They formed Kwanzaa.
Yeah.
And then the Panther Party, the Black Student Alliance, and the Black Student Unions from around all of the college campuses, they were in alliance with the Black Panther Party, and everybody was against us, and the Nation of Islam didn't like us either.
Yeah.
So I won't go into the reasons why, but things started going down about 1968, going on 69, and then Tricky Dick Nixon got in, and Great White Daddy in
Oh
the
yeah.
White House,
Yeah.
LBJ, went away, and people despaired. So the gang started coming back in. So myself, two other good brothers, we were running a playground at a elementary school called Trinity Avenue in South Central.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the roughest
Trinity
area,
Avenue. I done heard about that. I never been there, but I heard about that.
but we straightened it out.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some interesting students that we taught. And one of them had to do with gang resurrection, and the other one became a worldwide success. And I was substitute teaching high school and junior high to send myself through law school. And when Tricky Dick got in, and all of the neighborhood organizations started falling apart because they got infiltrated by these houseboy third floor bed wench types who were agent snitches and sworn officers of all of those three-letter federal agencies and police agencies. The gang started up again. Instead of the Slossons, Dale Vikings, businessmen, De La Soul, Bobtown, we had something else came about. Now, digressing back to two students I had, one of them became the singer Barry White with his deep voice. He was a skinny little 12-year-old on our playground, and the other one was a playground volunteer. He was 14 till he got to be 16. And Barry White's mama cooperated, and he became what he was. The other one, I guess mama still wanted to check, so she didn't want to let go of him, and we couldn't get him out of the swamp. So he just became the baddest ass alligator in the swamp, and he co-founded the Crips. That was Tookie Williams, who was the last person executed on California's death row.
Yeah.
He wrote some children's books that garnered some international acclaim and awards. And I think he should have had his death penalty sentence commuted to life for that, but he was just trying to teach what we taught him. But you see, the gangs came back in to answer your question when there was despair. There was this black pride thing. I'm black and I'm proud. Black power. And,
Can I say something for a minute, Judge?
go
Every
ahead.
time, I apologize. This is probably way off topic, but every time I hear you say Black Power, I just got through reading a book. I just got through reading a book called, it was a MLK book. It said, what's the name of the book? Where Do We Go From Here? And it talks about Black Power and how Martin Luther King was against Black Power and all of this stuff. And I wonder why he was against Black Power. Like he said, Black Power caused separation.
It scared him, scared the hell out of him.
Yeah.
And by the way, Black Power actually achieved more unity and lack of discrimination against all races than nonviolence did, because you had the Students for Democratic Society, they were white. You had the Brown Berets, they were Chicano. You had the Native American thing. You had the Asian thing, and it was called Third World Alliance. And we did that. So we didn't exactly like white stuff. And we knew it to be wrong white power where it was manifesting something against black people. But we didn't give a damn about anybody doing something for ourselves. So we didn't talk about white supremacy. Hell no. We said, get the hell out of our way, or we'll move you out of our way, and we'll do it ourselves. All this stuff now about we don't get it because we knew that if you stood up for what you were doing, you could get it.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant we stood patrols, Black Student Alliance, Black Student Union, some of them,
Mm-hmm.
and the Black Panther Party and the Nation of Islam. You'd patrol the areas to make sure there was no police brutality, no spousal abuse and domestic violence going on, train the children, feed the children, and that was what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that produced community unity.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I'd observe about the gang stuff when the primitive gangs were in there when I was in high school, and I was out of high school when the uprising in August occurred. I was at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that got me is the little crybabies in the 4th and 5th grade, snot running out there, and those are the same ones I saw years later when I was doing those motions to suppress, looking at the confessions, crying for their mamas. They became Mr. Badass when they got into 7th or 8th grade and joined up as junior flip members of the posse. And then they'd have a whole backing, and then they wanted to confront everybody. So if you want to see what that was like, there is a movie that John Singleton captured this in.
Okay.
It's called Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
That was Crenshaw, and it was a bit more refined than where I was in the area I'm talking about, but it was the exact same thing. People hanging on the front porch,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the folk not being a member of a gang,
Mm-hmm.
but everybody having to deal with the gangs because they were so deep into self-hate, frustration, and all this other stuff that they were trying to die. So they had no respect for their own life and they would kill anybody. I think I saw 14, 15 people murdered, killed by the time I got in the 10th, 11th grade, where I was standing,
Mm-hmm.
one case 5 feet away.
A house away, and it's happening.
Yeah, across the street. One of them's kind of funny. I was in 9th grade. I snuck out the house and went over to a friend's house 3 blocks away. And his first cousin, who was driving, he was 16 at the time. So he picked us up. We went to this party. We were way too young to be there. And we were looking at all the fine girls. Hey, little punk, what you looking at, man? Hey, man, I ain't looking at nothing, man. Yes, y'all, man. You looking at my old lady, man?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, man, no, man. Honest, swear to God, man.
Yeah.
I'm just junior high school, man. I ain't doing nothing, man. All right, don't let me see you stand, fool.
Yeah.
So outside on the front porch was a disturbance. Okay. We went outside to see what was going on. Hey, man, what you saying to me? Oh, man, you know, I'm going to have to move on you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let me go get my shit out of my car. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You ain't got no shit with you, man? No, man, it's in the car. You think I'm fool enough to let you go get your shit, man? You gonna kill me? Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Girl, you heard it, fool. The
Yeah.
laugh. You heard me say gonna kill me, man. Now, he a man. Don't he look like a man to you? Yeah, man, he look like a man to me. Well, you say he gonna kill me, man. Should I believe him? Yeah, man, you ought to believe me. So I'm gonna be fool enough to let you go out and get your stuff out your car, man? Oh, hell no, fool.
Bang.
Oh, man, ain't gotta be like that, man. Ain't no be like that, man. It gonna be like that. Boom.
Yeah.
Boom, fool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, boom, and he shot him in the head twice more, you know. So he said, oh, hell. So in retrospect, what happened afterwards is amusing. Me and my 4 friends, we took off running through the house. We got to a back bedroom, and then we went through it to a bathroom, and there was a little open window. So we climbed up, knocked the screen out, jumped off in the backyard. I hit the fence. Next guy hit the fence. The third guy threw his German Shepherd, was back there, grabbed him behind his jeans and ripped them off, man. So he got to the fence, we left a piece of his jeans there. And the next guy got over. So we had like, man, we had about 25 blocks, man, about 7 or 8 miles to walk to get back home. We drug in, snuck back in the house, man. But it was like that. Wolf tickets. Later, I'm grown. I'm about finished college. We were in South Central and we stopped at a liquor store, me and some of my friends. We wanted to get 6-pack of Coke 45, Slits malt liquor. We all drank malt liquor then, you know, the Bull and Country Club, Coke 45.
Mickey's.
They just come out with it in LA because you didn't have it before 65. So we went in this liquor store, the three of us, and we bought some beer, malt liquor, and there was a guy in a yellow windbreaker. He was older than us, and he bought some stuff too. So we were all walking out. He was right behind us. So when we get out, there was this guy standing next to a deuce and a quarter with both doors open. And his lady friend was in there. Deuce and a quarter is a Buick. Yeah. So anyway,
yeah,
they're having an argument. He was saying, "Don't talk to me, fool. Your breath stink. You broke. You can't keep it up. Blah 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 blah." She was really talking about it. And loud too, so everybody's looking like, damn, that's cold-blooded. Talk about dude like that. So he didn't say anything to us. Because like I used to play, I had played football at UCLA, and the other two brothers, you know, they weren't anything to mess with either. So we're walking out. He ignored us. He focused on the guy in yellow. What you looking at, man? You kept walking. You, man, in the yellow. I'm talking to you. What you looking at? You looking at my B, man?
Yeah.
Man, I ain't looking at crap. You call me a live fool?
Yeah.
Oh, gotta call somebody. No, man, I ain't. Man, you better not be over it. Man, just go on about your business.
Yes, sir.
So don't tell me what I'm gonna do. So me and my two homes, homeboy, we get behind a vehicle, not mine, but another one. I don't want my car shot up, so we wanted some engine block and some steel wheels between us and the action that was about to develop. So, guy said, "Man, you call me a lie and you talk about my woman." And the woman was going, "Oh, God," you know.
Yeah.
And he wants to get all ugly, so he reaches in the glove compartment. Well, the guy in the yellow windbreaker kind of tenses, and then the guy comes out with a knife. The guy in the yellow relaxes. We said, we really need to be behind the engine blocks. I know what's going to happen. So he came up and he said, "Now I'm going to cut your gizzard out, fool. You sit up here and disrespect me and my woman and the woman. And so why don't you just leave him alone, tend to your own business? Shut up. I do what I got to do." See, that's why I can't stand your dumb ass. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Insisted. Dude said, "Brother, put the knife away. That's not wise." Dude said, "What you gonna do, man?" And he swung at the guy. He jumped back. He said, "Man, I don't play that." And he swung again and he slashed the guy's windbreakers. "Man, you cut my windbreaker. You didn't cut my flesh, but that's last move. And what you gonna do?" The dude said, boom, shot him. He said, "I'm buying a ticket to the premiere performance, fool. Boom, I want a goddamn curtain call. Boom, I want an encore, goddamn it. Boom, and I want a whole book of them. Boom, wolf tickets, selling MF."
Oh,
the dude down there on the ground peeing, and the guy drove off. He peeing all himself. The woman said, "You damn fool, got your ass killed." It took his car keys, drove off, and left him there. So LAPD shows up after a while. And this guy did him the favor, shooting him in the fleshy part of his legs and in the shoulders. And he breathing and he peeing all over himself, crapped all over himself too. "Oh, they don't kill me. Oh, they don't kill me. I want my mama. Oh, they don't kill me." So homeboys standing around, they call, "Hey, man, I don't want to say nothing, man. He got it dead in your ass, man. Wolf ticket? Damn, man."
He called a wolf ticket.
Damn, man, wolf ticket. That first time I heard it, man, do it hurt, man? That look like that hurt, man. So when LAPD arrived, "Anybody see this?" "No, we just came out, heard this dude scream, talking about he in pain." And then some older brother said, "Well, yeah, we saw it." And I'm like, "What?" He said, "Dude on the ground, he got a knife. It's right over there in the bushes. He was trying to hold this man up." Man said, please don't hold me up. And the guy with the knife, I guess he slipped. So the man ran and he got
Yeah.
his gun. Yeah, we saw that. He had to pull it out. No, yeah, he had to pull it out, the old man said. He pulled it out of his trunk. It was unloaded. He running around loading it up. Said, please don't make me do this. So the guy tried to stab him and he shot him and he wouldn't stop trying to stab him and he kept trying to stop him. So LAPD handcuffs this fool laid on the ground bleeding. No, and he kept peeing all over him.
Golly, they didn't even get the they handcuffed him. They didn't call the ambulance or nothing.
Yeah, they called the ambulance, but everybody was laughing. So hence when I tell somebody, man, you selling wolf tickets, you know, it has a particular concern.
Yeah.
I've seen some other stuff. John Huggins and Bunchy Carter, Panther Party. I recruited him to UCLA. Geronimo Pratt, a.k.a. G, I recruited him. Elaine Brown, Nathaniel Clark, and a few others. I recruited them. And me and Elaine Brown were coming down the staircase in Campbell Hall, which we had taken over for minority history with the Chicanos, Asians, Native Americans. And there was a war going on for the Black History Department between the BSU, Black Student Alliance, the faculty, Black faculty, and the US organization who wanted to take it over for Karinga. So they assassinated John and Bunchy in front of 42 witnesses, literally at high noon in the cafeteria. So as Elaine Brown and I are coming downstairs, this stuff is going down because we had just left to go up to my office. So we heard some gunshots upstairs and also down, 4 of them. And then these 4 folk from us that we all, I don't remember their names now, but we used to know them. They came running down the hallway and John set up and fired 6 shots from a .357. Hit one of them in the back, but it didn't slow him down.
On the campus?
Yeah, on the campus.
Yeah.
So John fell back. I went down and looked to see what was going on, and he had blood bubbling out his mouth, and he died. And Bunchy was propped up on one elbow moaning, and he just collapsed, blood coming all out his mouth and everything. They shot him twice in the chest and shot John twice in the back. And John got off 6 shots after being shot in the back twice and fatally wounded, but he hit one of them in the back as they were running down the hallway. So, yeah, and then they put 4 bullets, somebody else, another group, 4 bullets in the back of my chair upstairs in my office when they kicked the door in, but I wasn't there. Elaine and I were between staircases. So, used to roll like that. So yeah, I've seen a lot of folk get done in.
It's amazing. Like if I listen to a young person have excuses about learning and stuff, and I'm listening to the stories you telling while going to high school, while going to college, and becoming the man you are today, that's amazing to me. Nobody have excuses.
Yeah. See, I played football at Dorsey, and our quarterback, when I was in 11th grade, 10th grade. And it was a basketball game. So everybody went to the basketball game. So afterwards, there was a little go this, that, and the other. So we all went to see what was going on. In those days, folk fought, but it was somebody from another way. This was at Dorsey High. So somebody on the other side supporting the other team, he got in a fist fight with somebody, pulled out a knife, some of us saw. So the quarterback was standing there. So the quarterback thought he got punched. And he got in the chase after this guy and started feeling strange. And he slowed down and he looked down and there was a spreading red stain right here. I was looking at him and he pulled his shirt up and there was a hole in him. So we all took him to the gym, called the coach down. Coach came down there, called an ambulance, and they put him on the table. And he kept panicking at the thought of being cut on or put under anesthesia, so they couldn't get his vital signs down. So they never operated on him and he bled to death because he panicked and that was our quarterback. So we got another one, but you know,
Yeah.
that I was standing 5-10 feet away. I mean,
Yeah.
it happened. Another thing, hell, I was at home, used to live on 58th Place in Normandy, and across the street was a nightclub and a liquor store. So somebody got to hassling the nightclub, and they got outside. The dude took a box cutter, slashed this dude across the belly. His guts came out. Dude pulled his dick out and started pissing on his guts. And then went around the corner to the residential area, picked up 2 handfuls of dirt, and threw them on his bare guts. Dude was trying to put back inside. Police got there. This dude was shaking and carrying on and thrashing, and he didn't make it. Now,
What was the most, like, I know you've seen vicious things, but as a judge, what was the most vicious case that you had to be a part of as a judge?
Dracula. That wasn't a judge. It was a defense attorney. Dracula.
I ain't heard about this one. It help me out,
Dracula, there was a real Count Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
And he was known as Vlad the Impaler. He'd stick a stake up somebody's anus and bury the stake and watch them wiggle for hours as they died. So there was this fiend that hung around Millington Naval Air Station, and he was kidnapping, drugging, and raping these female naval personnel. So he would go off into the forest in the area. He'd find a young pine tree, and he'd take rope and tackle, bend the tree down, double, trim the top branches off, and he would kidnap one of these women, strip her naked, rape her, lightly drug her, gag her, tie her up, and then while she's naked, he would put the top of the tree in her vagina and then let the thing go up. So she would squirm down, and if she was lucky, it would go up through the roof of her mouth and kill her when it got into the brain. And if not, it would come out here, and it would take her 7, 8, 9, 10 hours to die. So, I mean, gruesome ways of killing each other. I had one case where somebody peeled a person.
Where was that case before you go forward, though, Just where was that case? When was it? And how was he found in that case? The
He
Dracula.
caught himself, fell asleep inside of some place he broke into, but it was in the 80s in Shelby County. I was training the Capitol Defense Team there, so this was there. I had another one where they tried to frame 3 juveniles, one of whom was 16, was tried as an adult. Fortunately for him, all 3 of them were interrogated for 72 straight hours with no parents. 2 of them they held at juvenile court. They found them guilty. They held them until they were 21. The 16-year-old, my law partner, and I tried. And it was interesting because the judge, old white guy, but he was strict. He became my suite mate years later.
Yeah, yes,
When
sir.
I became a judge. Oh, I'll tell you something about that. It's a digression. I had this knockdown, drag out fight with him on a trial about the law. So one morning he calls me in. Hoy Brown, court needs to see you in chambers. I said, oh shit, what did I do? His name was Slick Williams, William Williams, formidable old white guy. Big guy too. Used to play pro football. And he said, you drink whiskey? I said, yes, sir. Jack Daniels? I said, yes. He brought out a bottle of Jack, poured me a shot. He said, congratulations. You kicked my ass. You're a real lawyer now. You was right. I said, what you talking about, Judge? He said, did you get a copy of this opinion? He said, proud of you. Good work. Good work. See, that's the way you roll. Somebody performs well. You're not bad because he does what he's supposed to do. He
celebrated you doing what you're supposed to do.
Now, he set aside the so-called confession because he said, you interrogated this 16-year-old child with no sleep for 72 straight hours. What the hell's going on down there? at juvenile court. So the judge down there dropped out of the 6th grade, so all he had was a 5th grade education, and it was a bad story at the time. Now, what happened that we developed for the proof that they'd been trying to conceal is it wasn't the 3 boys that killed the nurse.
Mm-hmm.
It was the doctor who was courting her, and he was engaged to her, and she put him down, and he got mad when she started dating an intern / resident at the hospital, which he thought was insulting. So here's what the 16-year-old was supposed to have done.
Mm-hmm.
Done a precise midline incision while the victim was still alive and strapped down, removed both of her ovaries, gave her a hysterectomy, and removed her vagina from the inside out while she was still alive, with a transfusion going into her arm. 16, 15-year-old, 14-year-old, you got to be kidding me. So they were trying to conceal this guy. Now, that's one of the bad things. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of the murders that I dealt with, like I said, this one where the hit went out and they broke the mothers up while their sons were watching and buried them alive. And then when the ones that I was trying in my courtroom, they tortured the mother, they kidnapped the Krispy Kreme employees, stole the truck, stole the uniform, the donuts, and it's interesting.
Do those be fairly like easy to convict, or is it still a challenge to convict somebody?
Murder case, unless somebody runs off at the mouth, there's no real witness because the main witness is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody keeps their mouth shut, it's very hard to prosecute a murder case.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I had stuff like that. I had stuff where they set people on fire, or chop pieces of them off a little at a time. Every 15 minutes, chopped off another piece of them. Mm-hmm. Because they didn't like them.
Yeah,
I dealt with confirmed hits, organized crime type hits.
Mm-hmm.
So, I dealt with a lot of those. I represented people on too.
Mm-hmm. Was it some that people got off and you might have knew that they was guilty?
No, that's not what you're doing.
What you mean?
It's not what a defense lawyer does. He's not trying to get you off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Can't guarantee it. What he's doing? No, what he's doing is this. He has an interest as a citizen in making sure that the government stays honest. If the government gets away with too much, they'll turn Gestapo, Nazi, commie party on you.
Yeah.
So what you do is you ensure that the state meets its burden of proof and adheres to due process of law. Why? Because American law is not about whether you actually did something. It's whether you did it sufficiently, in a sufficiently obvious fashion that you broke the public peace, dignity, and order. I'll give you an example. The Fourth Amendment, which they're trying to get around, prohibits unreasonable search and seizure, i.e. search without probable cause or a warrant. Mm-hmm. Now, every time you have a Super Bowl playoff, an NBA
finals game,
playoff series, people get together and watch it, right? Mm-hmm. They bet on it, don't they? Mm-hmm. In most states, that betting is a crime. Yep. But you can do it because nobody's got probable cause to come in your house and check you out. Mm-hmm. So rookies might say, George, what is it, Jamal? I know these guys are sitting up here and they're betting on the Super Bowl. See all those cars over there and everybody going in the house? Let's go in there and bust them. We can get us a case or 2 or 3 out of there. Mm-hmm. Probably went in. You find criminal activity, but it's inadmissible because the idea is it's more dangerous to let officials get away with that kind of thing than the crime is itself.
Yeah.
People die all the time.
Mhm.
Most murders are very hard to solve if they don't get solved in the first 48 hours.
That's why that show was created, ain't it? First
And they
48.
operated out of Memphis because the Memphis detectives are pretty damn good compared to elsewhere in the country. Really pretty good.
Why is Memphis, like, me being from East Tennessee, Memphis is like a whole different island than Knoxville and Chattanooga. It's like it seems like it ain't even a part of the state. And I bet to
It
us,
isn't. It
we
isn't.
don't yeah.
Boss Crump was here and he ran the state because of his political authority. But you know how they get up in the Appalachian Mountains in East Tennessee. That ain't. You guys in Knoxville are closer to Canada than you are to Memphis, which is weird,
Mm-hmm.
but it's true. And Tennessee was ideal for black power, but these boule houseboys and third floor bed wenches took the thing over. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, all women aren't that, and all
Yeah, I
men aren't
thought the
that.
Boulay was up Chicago, New York area. I didn't know it was in Memphis like it.
They come down from Fisk, Tennessee State. They
Oh,
come down from University of Memphis. They come down from
and they go to school
Christian
there.
Brothers. No, they're from Memphis, but they go to school up there, Howard and Atlanta. They go to Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark, all
They
on the same.
bring the ideals and stuff back home.
And they come back, and it got corrupted from a place where black folk had a real opportunity to exert black power.
Mm-hmm.
It got undercut, and you got all of these houseboys and third floor bed wenches who decided that they had another agenda, which had nothing to do with the people, and it became alienated from the people because one part of Memphis is one of the highest per capita incomes in America, and another one has one of the lowest. And the interesting thing about Tennessee is, guess where we stand in terms of wealth? Tennessee is number 4 in per capita millionaires. And a large portion of those are in Shelby County, East Memphis.
Yeah.
So you have these things, and when you give the colored who didn't get in at the creme de la creme level,
Mm-hmm.
have self-esteem problems, and they like to make themselves more important than they are. Well, what happens is they start looking like Atlanta housewives in terms of the boule functions they have. And some of the people I know I see in there when my ex-wife used to love to watch them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, truth of the matter is they're scared of the people and they really have no connection. And the people open the doors, but these clowns are making their mark by slamming the doors closed for gain.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a problem, and Memphis has gone down.
Mm-hmm.
So, like a young black lawyer, it's been years ago, came here and he went to UCLA Law School like I did. He was just as bourgeoisie. And I am with this large firm. I hear tell that you, Attorney Brown, you went to UCLA too. Is that true? Yeah. So when did you graduate? Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's 15 years after I came out. So what is your problem? Well, I decided to put my education to use. So I applied around the country, and right here there's a very large and prominent white law firm that wanted a black or African American attorney on staff, and I find it very lucrative. Where the hell did you say you went to law school?
Yeah. England?
No, wait a minute, man. I helped open up the door for you being in there, fool.
Yeah.
One of my colleagues, he had to go up and pistol whip a dean, man, along with a little street help in order to get him to keep open a program that you seem to have gotten in under.
Yes, sir.
well, it wasn't really affirmative action, but it was called, well, yeah. But the problem is, I got through the damn front door to open this crap up for you. So you mean to tell me you're what we did all this for? Oh, man.
Yeah,
Really?
it make you feel like I didn't do right.
And then why are you holding the Black Bar Association meeting up in this prominent white law firm when what you're supposed to be talking about, you know, I'm not trying to be a racist, but some of what we're talking about, this law firm represents the other side of the one we ought to be on. So why are you up in here? And they're listening to everything you say.
Yeah.
See, you fools are up in here talking, and some of these white guys, I've known them for years. I used to represent their moms and dads, and they'd associate me with the case. Yeah, Joe, some of your people around there plotting, you know, and they don't know we know. You can tell them, but they're too dumb to do anything about it. Yeah, man, they're kind of stupid. You know, that's what they're saying about you, and you're doing it anyway. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, man. So, what did you do longer, judge or a lawyer? Was you a lawyer longer or a judge longer?
Over 50 years, I don't know. I got elected to 2 8-year terms as a judge. I didn't finish all of the second term out because I had that show, but I had so much vacation time and we taped every other week. I could do the show. So the show ran for 15 years and it wasn't fake, unlike with the rest of the so-called court judges.
I could tell.
No, I mean, seriously, somebody sued us in 2000 and the states, well, 1999, and the state Supreme Court in California issued a 23-page written opinion in 2000. And it said, we find that Judge Brown is a qualified arbitrator under the California Act, and what he does is in confirmation with the California judicial arbitration and mediation statutes. Therefore, we find that his rulings are binding and enforceable in the entirety of the state of California, and the law applies, and he has the authority to find people in contempt and give out appropriate sentences for that. Further, we find that it is a necessity that he have the ultimate control over the outcomes, and he has the authority to dictate what goes on around and about the cases he's concerned. We find that if there is any deviation from this, resistance to his instructions or commands, and there is any harm suffered, that person who suffers any harm as a result will be able to proceed civilly against any offenders. Further, we find that any deviation from the authority of Judge Brown as an arbitrator under California law will result in potential criminal penalties against. So every time Hollywood would mess with me, you better read page 19 here.
Yeah. They was trying to get a civil lawsuit against you. They was trying to get money out of you, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, see, everybody would sue. But the bottom line is they said I had absolute immunity because it was under the Arbitration Act.
Yeah.
And they found I hadn't done anything wrong.
Yeah. I can't hear your audio no more, Judge. It's okay. It's okay. But that's crazy though that they would try to sue you civilly. I wonder how often they attempted to sue you. I'm gonna see if I can do something about your audio. Why it's mute? See, oh, it's not mute on my end. There you go. I can hear you now, Judge.
All right. Somebody tried to call, and when they do that, it drops me.
Okay.
But anyway, they would try to play this Hollywood, and I said, we're not playing at Hollywood. We're doing it the right way. People want real reality, not this fake mess you're trying to do. And you know, a lot of those TV judges had never been judges, so they were faking it.
Yeah.
And some of them, well, I think most of them had been lawyers, but
how often would they try to sue you? Like how often was the show getting?
All the time. People didn't like the rulings, but they said it was binding contractual arbitration. You had nothing to do with it, and there's a judicial mediation and arbitrative immunity. so long as they're in compliance with the law and apply the law.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I got 5 properties with mortgages. I got contacted by the bank I had saying we had to acquire some mortgage business extra.
Mm-hmm.
And would you be interested in consolidating 5 mortgages and getting them reduced to a fixed rate of what was it? 0.42% fixed interest rate. Hell yes. So I pulled it out.
0.2%. Goodness, that's great.
0.42%, not even a half percent.
Yeah.
So I got visited by the FBI. What the hell is going on? You answered falsely on a federal application. What? The question said, are you now or in the past 5 years have you been subject to any lawsuit against you? I answered truthfully that at one time, more than 5 years ago at this point, I had, but you have 7 pending lawsuits against you. What?
Mm-hmm.
So I found out the studio didn't want me raising hell, so they intercepted service process, sent some bozos down there to represent me, and didn't even tell me.
Mm.
So they sent me this thing about my settlement that I have any objection. What settlement? Later. I raised all kinds of hell because I got transcripts and these idiots are trying to confess me to it. He has a right to exercise artistic license and he doesn't have to follow the law. Well, the Supreme Court in this 23-page written opinion said I had to.
Mm-hmm.
So here are these idiots trying to confess me to being in jail, and I didn't even know they were supposed to be representing me. They didn't even get a permission.
They didn't allow you to choose your own representation.
Yeah, so I worked out a settlement in lieu of damages since I didn't need the money and didn't want the hassle, that they agreed to go to certain ethics courses, every single lawyer in the firm for the following 2 years, twice a year, to deal with the ethical considerations that were involved. Hell, I got contacted by attorney general offices in other states for unauthorized practice of law. What happened? Well, the studio was running this website in conjunction with people selling legal forms. Ask Judge Joe Brown and he will personally respond.
Mm-hmm.
I said I had nothing to do with this, so I wrote them cease and desist letters. They kept doing it, so I had to join in and say I'll help you prosecute them.
Mm-hmm.
They were given specific advice. My neighbor refuses to cut his trees, and there's several trees that drop debris on my driveway. What should I do? So Judge Joe Brown, somebody was acting as me. Ask them nicely, and if they don't, since they travel the next time they go out of town, have somebody go on their property and cut these trees down. Hell, that's not good advice.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Yes, sir.
And I gave affidavits. I didn't do that. Somebody did, and I have sent the following cease and desist letters. They refused to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was that, and a lot of those so-called judges, Judge Toller, Judge Alex, Judge Judy, myself, and there was one lady that had a Hispanic name. I can't remember her right off. We had been the only ones that had actually been judges more than 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, Judge Mathis, nice young man, but he came off of being the youngest judge in Michigan history when he got elected as a result of a protest against some things they were doing. Nice guy, but whereas when I went on the bench for doing this, I was in my 50s. I wasn't, fresh out of law school, 2 years out of law school.
Yeah.
Or handling like Judy. She never had, as a lawyer, she never tried a jury trial. She never tried a bench trial. She
You
never
had already done all of that.
Yeah, I mean, not as a lawyer. She came right out of law school, and they wanted a nice Jewish lady to be over a domestic court where lawyers couldn't practice, so they brought her in. Judge Toller was the real thing. Maybelline had never been a judge. She auditioned. She had been a lawyer in L.A. Alex had been a street cop and went through
I
law
didn't know
school,
that.
streetwise.
I thought they was all real judges, Judge.
No,
Yeah.
And some of them, I won't call the names, hadn't a damn clue as to what was going on. One of them was famous for saying, "I don't know what nihil pros means. It's the same as guilty." No, it's
Now,
not.
and I heard a lot of people be doing these shows on YouTube and all over the place. They use the word allegedly because I
Well,
was just
what's
thinking,
that mean?
how can that protect you in the court of law? Like if somebody
Well,
sue
if
you
you
for
said
defamation.
alleged, that grants you immunity.
Okay. But you'll have to say it every time, wouldn't you? That you say something
In
that
other words, you put context. The following facts are alleged, or the following alleged facts have come to life, and you can include them. But it is a safe thing, so somebody can't start some crap by taking something out of context and you repeat it. Nowadays, people love to take stuff out of context and take one paragraph out of the whole thing and try to go that way. But if you put context, then
you're
they
protected.
can't.
Yeah.
Now, and a lot of lawyers aren't too bright. That thing with Monica Lewinsky and such like, it was funny. When I first started the show, they wanted me to go to this class on how to do public speaking. I didn't need it, but I went, and Monica Lewinsky and her family were there in the same class. So Miss Lewinsky's daddy had a bumper sticker on his Mercedes that said, "My daughter sucked the president." She said she wasn't mad, and she and her mama talked about how they had a contest, and the dad put up the prize money. And I'm looking at him like, "You lost your mind. You know, your wife was doing this and your daughter was doing this. You put up the prize, so your wife and your daughter were having a contest to see who had sex with the most important person." So she saved the cum stained dress to show mama as proof that she had sucked off the president. Now,
That's crazy.
that was one part of crazy, but to show you how lawyers can mess up when they don't know what they do. At the law school I went to, we got taught as a matter of practicality. When you answer interrogatories, you say the defendant or the party or the plaintiff defines the following term as follows, including but not limited to the following. And you list everything you can think of, but you said including but not limited to. Well, when Clinton's lawyers demanded of the plaintiffs in that civil suit down in Arkansas to define what they were talking about when they wanted to jam him up, when they were trying to bring in outside proof that technically should have been excluded because it actually was only relevant as an impeachment factor against the lawsuit in Arkansas that did not involve Monica Lewinsky. So what they wound up doing was saying sex is defined as follows, instead of saying sex is defined as to include but is not limited to the following. So what they defined didn't deal with what
actually was.
what actually happened and what she said happened. So when he said I didn't have sex with Monica Lewinsky, you couldn't get him because he hadn't told anything that was perjurous. He just answered the question, and the dumb bunnies that asked him the question didn't know how to ask it. It's an art form, and you have to be smart to do this because there are thousands of ways you can say something, and depending upon how you say it, there are nuances and spin and everything else you can take off of it. And the law is famous with, if you can't go through the front door, find out how to go through the back door.
Yeah. And it's another way if you can't go through the back door. It's just multiple
what that
ways.
means is okay, you can't lead somebody, but you can't ask them a question wherein the answer is suggested, but you can ask a question that is effectively a leading question by stating, instead of, you went through the back door, didn't you? That's leading.
Yeah.
But if you say, did you or did you not go through the back door?
You asking, you not telling.
Yeah, but you did the same thing. That's a simplified version of going through the back door.
Judge, I done had you on the show for 2 hours. I appreciate you. I would love to have you back on the show.
And I'm just telling stories. It's
I
Black History Month.
I appreciate your stories too.
There's a message in there. You know what it is?
Tell me the message.
Goddamn, stand up for yourself. You don't get crap if you get to sniveling and whining and begging for crap. Take it.
Yeah. Take it.
And for other thing, one last story I'd like to tell you.
Appreciate it. And I got one topic I want you, because I watch your show, and I got one topic I want you to see. It's about masculinity. It's about the man up and stuff, man. But tell your story, Judge. I'm sorry.
Okay, there was a guy named Tom Burrell.
Mm-hmm.
Came out of Howard, and he started Black Corporate Farming.
Yes, sir.
Well, I was working with him, and I got a subsidiary client. It was a 16-year-old sister, beautiful, absolutely drop dead gorgeous, and she's in her 40s now, 50s, and she inherited 80,000 some acres from her grandfather. So some folks that were into the old line farming business were renting these 80,000 acres for
Where was the acres at, Judge? I'm sorry.
in West Tennessee.
Okay.
A lot of it was centered around Brownsville. So they were renting it for like $250 a year, 80,000 acres.
That's the key.
And she wasn't getting any percentage of the crops. And when she inherited it, and some of her people started looking into it, they contacted Tom Burrell. Tom realized that there was no contractual agreement. It had expired years ago.
Okay.
So he said, I'm going to offer you some big bucks for this and 25% of the crop proceeds. All right. Nice deal. Well, these people went in, and it was kind of funny. They got a permanent injunction, ex parte, which you can't give. So we knew there was going to be some hassle. To start off, I go up to Brownsville, and this old chancellor, he's 80 something. And this old lawyer, he's in his 80s. And the discourse is this: God damn it, Lawyer Brown, I'm quoting, God damn it, Lawyer Brown, are you trying to say somebody signed an ex parte and permanent injunction? You can't do that. Who the hell did that? I said, well, Your Honor, no aspersions cast, but it looks like you did, sir. Let me see that. Jesus Christ, I did. Tommy, you son of a bitch. You got me to sign this bullshit. Making me look bad. You son of a bitch. You low down damn snake.
Yeah.
But Your Honor, Tommy, damn, you know better than that. And anyway, I said, Your Honor, we took the liberty of preparing an order. Your Honor, we object. Tommy, what the hell are you objecting to? The presumption that he knew what the court was going to rule, Your Honor. What other way is the court going to rule? So he signed it, and I got 5 certified copies. So I brought a briefcase with nothing in it, and I put 2 of the copies in there.
Yeah.
So I put the rest of the copies in the other briefcase, and we got in the cars, and we went back to the property, and it was landlocked. And these clowns had meanwhile pushed boulders up on the road, cut down trees, so there was no access. So Burrell calls in his equipment, bulldozers come, and they shove everything aside. So we get into the property. By now it's mid-afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have cell phones then. Nobody did. So somebody took off on a dirt bike to go call the sheriff at a payphone at a gas station down the highway
Mm-hmm.
because it was getting hostile because we started getting surrounded by these other guys and they had shotguns, rifles, and pistols. I had a 45 in one hand and a 357 in the other one.
Whew.
And it was one of these on both sides. Don't nobody move.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the
That is
sheriff showed
standoff.
up. He said, Jesus Christ, guys, put them muzzles down. We got a wall up in here. What the hell is happening? Oh, my God. Sam, what you doing, son? Put that damn shotgun down. You Lloyd Brown, ain't you? Jesus Christ. I said, Sheriff so-and-so, I said, in that briefcase, you will find 2 certified copies. One I wish to keep. The other one goes to you, and you will see that these people are trespassing on private property.
Mm-hmm.
Goes over, looks up, and said, Sam, goddamn, you and your boys is trespassing up here. Get the hell off these people's land.
Oh,
I runs you in.
yeah. And that's how the property got obtained.
Yeah, I mean, but you see, you got to roll like that. If he hadn't showed up, there might have been
That's some
serious
lives lost.
Like, I'd suggest nobody move fast.
Yeah.
So my side, everybody was armed. That side, everybody was armed. And, I'm angling to immediately get cover and fire under the doggone truck, So it is what it is. But you see all of these punk plays that so many do, like, oh my God, Jamal, what do you think of this Chablis? Isn't it delightful? And do pass some of those pink wafers, or it looks pink, or is that? Well, they're good anyway. And some of that cheese, the one in the middle, that's just delicious.
Yeah. Yeah. The boys getting that, they have that feminine behavior once they get to where they try.
No, I don't know what it is, but it sure is masculine. And like that guy from UCLA wanted to talk about his perspective, and fool, you have no idea what we did, sacrifice, so you could get in there. And what are you doing? Nothing.
Nothing
So
at all.
that's what we have now. They are NAACP presidents, lead community organizations. They're supposed to be civil rights attorneys, and they haven't done anything for the people. Some do, but you go to bar association meetings and civil rights is a dead issue. We don't need to worry about it. Everything's all right. Just fit in, and we need to stop focusing on this rights thing. Now some of them are pimping it.
Yeah, I think laws need to be modified to current times.
Why?
Why I think that? Because
what needs to be modified?
Modified, like rights.
Why?
Why don't they need to be? Like, times have changed though.
No, but the rules are pretty damn good rules. Let me give you an example.
Talk.
One of the most racist organizations in America at one time was the National Basketball Association, the NBA. The first brother to play in the NBA played for the Lakers. They hired him in 1947. He played football and ran track, but not basketball. His name was Don Barksdale, and he went to UCLA.
Yeah.
Now, when you think of basketball outside of management, LeBron, Kobe, Magic, Kareem, everybody's black, right? You don't think of it as a white sport, do you?
I'm different though, Judge.
No, I'm saying outside of management, do you think it's a white sport?
No, it's not.
Okay. The rule book is essentially the same as it was when it was one of the most racist institutions of America. I mean, palming.
I see where you're going now.
Palming used to be a foul, Steps, too many steps traveling. They don't call that much now.
They don't call the what is
palming,
that?
Yeah. But the rule book is the same. So is it a racist rule book, or was it just racist players and a racist league that now will bring in all the black folk? When you say the rules need to be changed, think of it as the NBA rule book. It hasn't changed much, but it's not the rule book, it's something else.
The rules don't need to be changed. You just got to learn how to play the game.
Exactly. So in Memphis, 65% of the prospective jurors are black, 60% of the judges are black, the chief of police is black, the fire chief is black, the sheriff's black, etc., etc. It's a lot of folk just need to learn how to play the game.
The rules don't need to. You said that you said a mouthful right there. I appreciate that. I received that.
Yeah, that's called teaching.
Yeah, yeah. I learned something from that, Judge.
Thank you. But
I'm
see,
thankful for that.
it's something's wrong with the picture, but it ain't the rule book. By the way, you know the Constitution doesn't mention the word black in it one time, nor do any of the amendments.
Why is that though? Because black doesn't exist, does it?
No, that's not what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
See, when they wrote the Constitution, there were two kind of people that were acting as slaves: indentured servants that did that by contract to be slaves for a fixed period of time, and those who had been brought over. So what the Constitution says is Article 1, for purposes of apportioning representation in the House of Representatives, a census shall be conducted every 10 years.
Okay. Okay.
For purposes of this article, 3/5 of all persons held in involuntary servitude or slavery shall be counted toward that number that determines the representation.
Mm-hmm.
You saw a version of it this last census when, remember, all of that furor over whether or not you can ask somebody if they are a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the fifth sentence. That was the fifth census I'd filled out as an adult over 21 in my life.
Yeah.
That's the only time they didn't ask whether I was a citizen or whether my parents were citizens and how they were citizens: birth on American soil, by parentage, naturalization, or whatever. Why? Because if they're asking you in the census, contrary to California trying to say, well, you'll have people hiding, you don't get a true count, the purpose is so you couldn't determine their eligibility to vote. So you could count all of these people toward apportionment of representatives in the House of Representatives, so California wouldn't lose any representation, and the people that was based on wouldn't be able to vote. So, in other words, you add extra numbers, you keep the number of congressmen you had, but the people that you're representing couldn't vote.
Yeah. Oh.
They're not trying to get illegals to vote. They don't want them to vote.
But they want the numbers.
Yeah. Now, people say the penitentiary so they can get free labor under the 13th Amendment that allows slavery. You know how they're talking about that? Because I started it, but they took it wrong about 6-7 years ago. I started putting it out about the 13th Amendment. That's what it said. Now,
I heard you mention that on Vlad too.
Now, let me tell you how they got it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you get locked up, you're enslaved. Your liberty is not yours.
Yeah.
Your freedom is restricted. So the act of confining somebody is to enslave them.
Mm-hmm.
So the 13th Amendment doesn't have anything to do with legitimating slavery. You're a slave if you get locked up, and they're not going to end penitentiaries anytime soon.
No, they definitely ain't ending that.
So what happens is people say they're in penitentiary so they can get your free labor. That's not why they put you in a penitentiary now. That is not what the criminal justice system is about.
Mm-hmm.
Crime is necessary and important to the American way. What the prisons are for is the warehouse surplus labor.
Yeah.
See, labor is a commodity like wheat, corn, cotton, whatever, poultry. And when you have a glut, the price drops. Labor is a commodity, and if the price of labor drops, then you get Timothy McVeigh types who will get 200 pounds of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, which there's no restrictions on buying it. Hell, you can go to the lawn and garden store and buy it.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, you can turn it into a very effective long pulse explosive, which the Army uses and the Marine Corps uses as the explosive filler for 155 howitzer shells. So gun control, yeah, but let's go big time. The military has a saying that bullets kill many, but only high explosive kills enough. And
Mm.
you get more than 90+% of your casualties in any flat out war, from Napoleonic Revolutionary War times, American Civil War, up until Ukraine. They're not caused by bullets, they're caused by high explosive
High
fire
explosives.
artillery shells. So while we whoopee, what happens with this? You don't want Timothy McVeigh taking down 180 some people at one time in Oklahoma City, or 140 at the courthouse.
Mm.
So you want to do something about your surplus labor. So when you have a commodity glut, there are three things you do. You store the surplus, you subsidize the would-be producer, and you cut back production. We store the surplus in a jail cell, not a grain silo.
Ooh.
The subsidy is a welfare check. Cutting back a production is
It
interesting.
adds for a want of it,
No,
a need of it when you cut
no,
back. What it
no.
do, what does it do, Judge? I'm trying to
The
understand.
cutting back of production is when you get in the kid's head. So he drops out, bangs out, drugs out, gets knocked up too early, too often,
Oh,
too into ideation from gangster rap video,
thank you.
stuck on stupid for what he sees on social media.
Ooh.
So dresses wrong, acts wrong, carries himself wrong, has no manners, hasn't had upbringing or exposure in the real world to the consequences of improper presentation.
Mhm.
He makes where he lives chaotic so it cannot engage in political self-help. And when he gets his first felony and goes to the penitentiary, it's way tough to get a job. So he goes to the warehouse not to use his free labor because there's too much labor to employ under the American system. And
Mhm.
they need crime so they can get rid of surplus labor conveniently and make money off of the surplus labor, not by putting it to use, but by feeding it, clothing it, sheltering it, transporting it, providing communications and supervision. Yeah, they make license plates and they bust up big rocks,
Mhm.
but you know what that's about? Idle minds mischief make. So you want something to keep him busy. In the military, half the thing that the sergeants and lieutenants and captains have to worry about is what are they going to do to keep their men busy so they stay out of mischief. That's what this prison labor is about. They don't want your free labor. Hell, the market's glutted. That defeats their purpose.
Yeah.
Why is it so bad in America? Well, everywhere else in the industrial world, they've done something to accommodate that so the otherwise obsolete worker has something else he'll be able to do at a comparable wage scale or better. They'll make him a quality controlled inspector. But in America, they get rid of him. Somebody's been driving a warehouse forklift for 19 years. He's
Mhm.
trying to think about training his nephew, but he gets a pink slip that says, "Bye, sucker. We're getting rid of
You
you."
did you see where Amazon just released 18,000 people? Not I think it was yesterday. That
And FedEx too.
yeah. So where are we headed, Judge? Is it
Where, and wait, what do you do with these people when there's massive inflation, jobs are unfilled, the economy is screwed up? What do you do with them? I went to a warehouse in Louisville, Kentucky in the 80s when I was part of the team on a lawsuit. And we got a tour of this athletic facility, athletic manufacturer's warehouse. And they had 4,500 people employed there on 3 shifts, 8 hours a shift, 1,500 people a shift. People were paying their mortgages, putting money away, paying their car notes, setting up for retirement vacation. Now, when I came back in the early 90s to speak for a community group, and this same athletic company was sponsoring it, I got a tour of the warehouse. There were no longer 4,500 employees. There were only 75, and most of them were security and maintenance. And they had computerized and mechanized everything. So they had these special pallets and these computer generated overhead gantries that would go up to pallet stacks, lift them up, put them on these little miniature trains that would run down tracks in the middle of the aisles, and they would go to the elevator.
I've seen those.
They would come down and they would automatically be loaded in trucks, and all these 4,500 people were out of work. So where did they get employment? Nobody gave a damn. Because America says leave it to private enterprise, and that's good for some things.
Capitalism. That's the definition of capitalism, ain't it?
Yeah, but sometimes the government's necessary. Like these people that are out of work, they get disenchanted. These people that are out of work, they might become Timothy McVeigh. These people that are out of work who are likely to become Timothy McVeigh, you want them to be the last fired. So what happens is you get some clown fools running around. Yo, man, it's about lower the sag, the cooler the dude. Pants hung off your ass, hair all sticking up, and you know, that's black hair. No, man, it ain't black hair when you don't wash it but once a month, man. The hair stinks. What's the matter with you?
That, you know what's crazy too, when you say that, I was thinking about, like you said, the guys with their pants sagging and they start hustling and selling drugs and stuff. And I think about like drugs. I'm 43, Judge, so drugs back in the 90s in comparison to now with that fentanyl stuff. And I hear about it in Tennessee too, because I live in Charlotte now, but I keep in touch with home. Like, they putting fentanyl in Merle and everything.
Man, let me tell you about fentanyl. I had cancer 2 years ago, throat cancer. They got it. Just went for a checkup Friday. They said I'm still clear. But I had 3rd-degree burns all on the outside of my neck. That didn't feel good. But I had 3rd-degree burns inside my throat from the radiation. They put this foam thing that they mold to your face, head, and upper body, and they bolt you to this table so you can't move. And they have a computer program, so once a day you have to go in and they irradiate you. The first week isn't so bad, but after that, you start getting 3rd-degree radiation burns. You lose your taste. You can't swallow. It hurts like hell. You start losing weight. So they give you fentanyl. That is some nasty stuff. And I still have some left over. On the package, it says in red, be cautious and be aware. This causes respiratory dysfunction, which can frequently be severe. Warning, do not use unless you are prescribed. Do not use nor prescribe except for severe pain or the development of extreme opiate tolerance, etc., due to training. Now, you know what it cost me for a 30-day supply?
I have no clue, Judge. I have no clue.
$1.62.
Yeah, is that's from the hospital or where you got
No, that's from the pharmacy.
a pharmacy?
But they have it at all these hospitals for severe pain, burns, car accidents. And at one point, residents, orderlies, they're picking up handfuls of it and they could sell it for $20 a hit. In fact, George Floyd passed the counterfeit 20. And when you see the part of the video where that young worker is saying, "Hey, mister, can I get you, would you get a money back, man? I got to pay this out of my pocket. I don't know you."
Yeah.
And that's what he bought his junk for $20. Now, let me tell you, I'm from the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, everybody tried everything. I'm not going to lie about it. All right. Cocaine. Most people didn't want anything to be bothered with cocaine because it was hyper expensive and you get a stuffy nose. And for most people, it didn't do anything except a slight buzz for 3 minutes. Somebody spent $100 for this mess?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no. But you see, if you took 100 people and gave them all the coke they wanted, 95 of them would say, "Oh, hell no."
Mm-hmm.
But 5 would say, "Oh, this is miracle stuff." Yeah. And if you took 100 composed of that 5 and gave them freebase and then crack, you got 99 sprung junkies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you wanted to get that kind of rush, what you did is you used Benzedrine that the U.S. Army or Marine Corps put 2 Benny tablets in everybody's rations every day of the year in the now.
To keep
So
them
if you
wired.
got caught outside of the wire, you could pop one and you haven't had any sleep in 36 hours. You pop them and you were alert, focused, and you could get back to safety. That was to save your life. But most of the time, people wanted to crash and get sleep and they weren't anxious to be up. So they didn't
Yeah.
take them. So they'd bring them back and they'd sell them for $5 a hit. So you get 2 a day. That's 730 of them.
Yeah.
You might have used 30 in the NOM. You got 700 to sell for $5, and students bought them up because it would let you stay up 2 days cramming for an exam, and you'd remember everything you read, and it's cool.
Yeah.
That's what it was for. So people would say, for $5, what the hell? Why would you want to go spend $200-300 to get part of this and it lasts for 4 to 5 minutes? This stuff will last you for 24 hours, but it was of utility, just like it was designed to do. You didn't use too much of it because you get dependent on it, but it could keep you up for finals and midterms. So yeah, I understood it. Now, with that context, fentanyl ain't nothing for anybody to be getting high off of. It's a dead high. All you can do is sit in your chair and say, "Man, please
See
keep
what I
your dumbass in this chair because you know you're going to do something stupid."
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, this ain't even fun. This isn't enjoyable. You got to be some kind of somebody way off to enjoy a fentanyl high. Something wrong with you.
What I tell younger individuals though, Judge, because they like marijuana, they smoking marijuana and they putting fentanyl in it. And I heard about it at home. I heard people dying and stuff at home because didn't Gangsta Boo just pass away because she was taking some sort of pill, but it was mixed with fentanyl.
Yeah,
Like,
and there's another thing. The Sheriff's Association in Tennessee put out a warning about dollar bills, $20, $50, $100 bills you might find at a gas pump. They lace it with fentanyl. And see, fentanyl, the stuff that they give you, is not by pill. It's about this big around, looks like a little stick on Band-Aid. So you put it on your shoulder, and for 72 hours, you're stoned. You don't feel any pain. And you want to just lay down and have somebody take you to where you are. And when you're in there, say, "Please, I've had a dose of fentanyl 2 days ago and I'm still stuck on stupid. So forgive anything that I say that may be out of line."
mm-hmm,
Understood, and caution you going there. Oh, damn. And you know, you'd have to work on that. And you couldn't eat. And when you ate, everything tasted like either Vaseline,
yeah,
warm or cold, or Vaseline with cocoa butter in it. And, you know, that's nasty. I lost 84 pounds. So I haven't been this light in the ass since I've been in junior high school, high school. But it feels good now.
yeah,
Be good for life, but I used to pump all kinds of iron, but it is what it is. And that is not a good high. And I think about it, man, what is going on in these
What?
people's heads if they want fentanyl by choice? Man,
Yeah, that's
hey,
crazy.
and see, but the problem is why these contaminated bills wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You take somebody that's not in severe pain or has not become almost an opiate junkie.
Mm-hmm.
It's absorbed through the skin. So somebody picks up this dollar bill, shakes it off, and now they've killed themselves, but they won't know for 2 or 3 hours later when they drop dead because they built up no tolerance for this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So just think about the evil folk going around putting fentanyl on bills to get somebody to pick them up. And we've had quite a few episodes around the state of Tennessee. It hasn't
Yeah.
gotten back east so bad.
Yeah, and like you said, you could get it for $1 or something. So that means it's deadly and it's not expensive.
Yeah. And like what some people did, a lot of people get cancer. So they get a prescription,
Mm-hmm.
they skimp on it, and it's $1.62, depending upon your insurance, for a 30-day supply.
Good.
So you can sell 10 days worth that you got for a few pennies
Mm-hmm.
and make your rent money if you know what you're doing. So people do it. And this stuff you're supposed to stick to your shoulder so it works through your skin for
72.
72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
These fools chew it. God damn, man. What's wrong
what,
with
what
you?
does that
Crap
what does
will
that
kill.
do?
And then, I mean, sometimes you take that stuff, man, and you say, oh, man, I understand how these folk die. One time I did that and blood sugar got depressed, and it took me 45 minutes literally to be able to reach this left hand over to get to my right hand so I could help shove it to the end of the arm of the chair to try and pull myself forward in another hour so I could fall to the floor, in another hour to get to my knees so I could crawl to get some of this Ensure or Boost, 550 calories for 8 ounces, and drink enough to stay alive because it had depleted my blood sugar and I was getting ready to go comatose.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's crazy. And by the way, with the throat cancer, that shit hurt so bad. Oh, it was so uncomfortable and you couldn't swallow. It'd take you 45 minutes to an hour to drink 6 ounces of that stuff.
Because
Now,
that intro stuff thick, ain't it?
yeah, no, it's not thick.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes like chocolate milk.
Yeah, yeah.
About that thin, too. So it's crammed with standard stuff, 180 to 220, 250 calories. You special order the stuff with 500 to 700 calories because you can't swallow. And you wanted to do a quick recovery so you didn't get a feeding tube implanted in your chest
Mm-hmm.
or a medication pump tube lower down so they didn't have to continuously shoot you up in a permanent shunt. So every time you went in, they could take the 5 samples. And remember, you're going in every day. I mean, they used to have to hook you up to an IV every 2 days to rehydrate you because you couldn't drink enough liquid.
Drink enough liquid if you had throat cancer.
Yeah,
Mm.
or some other kinds too. So alternative is they go in, split your chin, take your jawbones, separate them, and go in this way to work on it.
And you can feel that, or they'll have to numb you up so you wouldn't be
Oh,
able to.
yeah, but you're under intense, you were way under, and that's major surgery. But then you have to go through rehab to be able to talk again. And my business is talking. So I was glad radiation and chemotherapy worked. So I had to go through it for 8 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Every day you get shot up with the radiation.
Mm-hmm.
And at a point, your neck was burnt up and everything up. And, you had to go in there and put this stuff on it, and then you had to take it off because the next day they gave you radiation treatment. If you had it on there, it would intensify the burn.
And hydration is the main thing that you need at that time when you have throat cancer.
Yeah, and they got a IV you. You know, it
Mhm.
takes 4 hours for them to IV you with what they're putting in you.
Mhm.
And you're sitting up in there, and they kept it cold, man. You'd be freezing to death.
Man, that's the main thing I don't like about hospitals or jail. Woo! Especially they keep it too cold. It'd be
That's
super cold.
cold.
But
I
that's to keep the
5
germs down and
days,
stuff, ain't it? That's
5 days in jail about 6 years ago because I got locked up for contempt in juvenile court for defending this woman against a racist idiot who wasn't even a judge.
mhm.
They hired him because the regular judge wasn't qualified to sit. So he tells me that on my 57-year-old female client, he doesn't have time to recall the warrant, which was defective anyway, because some clown that had been stalking her from years before when she was just 19 years old ran into her, and they rubber stamps a warrant for her arrest. Nobody knows who rubber stamped it, supposedly because he was the father of a daughter by her. But get this, that was when she was 19 and she's now 57 years old, which was 38 years before. So would a 38-year-old anybody be subject to child support? No. And he'd paid no child support. As a matter of fact, she'd been married for most of that time and had one son. That's all she had. So she had a 6-figure job. She was getting a background check. They found they had a warrant out, and this clown didn't want to take the time. So I went off on him, and he was violating an order I had personally entered against him and the court. So
And they locked you up
6 years before.
locked you up for 5 days?
Yeah, I stayed in the jail, but it was interesting. I had the warden down there every day. We were talking to him and a lot of the guards who wanted to do something with the youth. And he said, "We keeping you away from the inmates." I said, "I don't care. I just don't want to hurt one of them."
Yeah.
Hurt one of them. So I said, "Yeah, I've been taking martial arts for 50-some years. I know what I'm doing." So I gave their security team a few training moments, which were interesting. So, yeah.
Tell me about your experience of 5 days. I know you did a little bit, but the
5 days, it was intolerable. If I hadn't been who I am, I would have quickly turned in, I'm going to kill somebody, because the idea of locking up somebody and taking away your liberty is intolerable to a free man.
yeah.
But I said, I'm doing it for a cause, and I knew what time it was when it happened. So what I'm saying is that the conditions of confinement, again, are not the punishment, it's the confinement. You
Yeah.
ever heard of the
Yeah.
Tower of London?
The Power of London?
Tower of London, where England's most
Oh, the
notorious
Tower of London.
criminals and kings that had been deposed were
Yeah.
locked up.
Yeah, I heard about it. The Tower of London.
It's actually towers, plural. But you know what it is?
Tell me.
It's the main jail in England, but you know what it is? It's a
What?
palace.
A
So
palace.
they lock folk up in a palace, that's their jail.
Yeah.
But it's still punishment because a free person's liberty has been stripped from him. That's what I was talking about, the 13th Amendment. You're a slave while you're in there, because
Yeah.
they tell you when to go piss, shit, eat, whatever it's going to be.
It's just a different form of slavery. Yeah.
Slavery is basically confinement against your will. That's kidnapping and unlawful confinement. It's also temporary enslavement.
So freedom is a choice. Freedom really isn't free, is it? To
And you see, you know what we need to discover?
Yes, sir.
We keep talking about enslavement. People who are free have made the choice that goes this way. In America, they say, give me liberty or give me death. I regret that I have but one life to give for my country. Better dead than red. And all over the world, if you want to be free, you say being free is so important that the opposite I'll die to get out of if I can't get free, like Spartacus did.
The movie.
Yeah, well, the real Spartacus, there's a great deal written on him. He terrorized Rome for quite a long while because they got free, and he taught the slaves who had escaped how to fight. They whipped up on some legions. On the last one, he said, "We don't need to fight this." But his homeboy insisted on doing it, and they went it, and Spartacus died on the battlefield, and Rome crucified most of the survivors, several thousand that they got, all at one time up and down a road. But they say could have been free if somebody hadn't been grandstanding.
Yeah.
So it's about this. Are you willing to die for your freedom? Now, I had my grandmother on my mother's side was Choctaw. So I'm a Choctaw. I got registered.
What's a Choctaw? It helped me understand
The civilized tribes they call Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek,
Yeah.
Seminole. They had an alphabet and they had writing. They got put on the Trail of Tears by this bastard Andrew Jackson. And I had 3 direct ancestors, not just related, who died on that Trail of Tears. So the family doesn't like Andrew Jackson and doesn't like that whole thing. But my Choctaw grandmother, I can remember her. She was an old lady when I came along in her 90s. And she used to get on the rest of the family. She'd grin and she'd say, "You colored folk, something's wrong with you." She said, "When white folk mess with us, we go scalp one of them and nail the scalp to the lodge pole. You colored be getting mad and frowning all the time. We smile." And I'm not getting on white folk, but that's the way it was. Kind of went both ways. White folk took scalps. Native Americans took scalps.
Yeah.
So
what black folk take, Judge?
Hell.
Oh, that's true though. That's true.
My grandfather, his father was a Nigerian district sub-chieftain. They've got a movie out I don't like because the people were in the business of doing slave enslavement for the white folk. And he was a Yoruba district sub-chieftain. And he got captured, and it was after the slave trade, so they sent him over here. He got bought, but they had to cut him free. And he caught all kinds of hell. So my grandfather, who was born 1850, he was 15 when the Civil War was over, died at 102, 1952. He and an uncle murdered 2 white deputy sheriffs who participated in a lynching of one of my other uncles. Now, my grandfather, after participating in the lynching, he and that uncle, they left where they were. He wound up going to medical school, lied about his age, put it back 15 years. So he practiced medicine, but he took the offender out. He wasn't angry anymore. So, interestingly enough, he and Alex Haley's grandfather practiced medicine together. When you saw that in Roots, where Alex Haley's grandfather was trying to treat a relative of his, and he's going, "But I'm a doctor," and the other guy was saying, "Ian, get out of here. Don't you put your filthy hands on my father."
Yeah.
See, my grandfather practiced medicine with Alex Haley's grandfather up in Jackson, Tennessee for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
So I had another grandfather, great grandfather, that escaped before the Civil War. He cut his master's head off and cut both of the mistress's hands off because she touched him, and he escaped to Canada.
Mm-hmm. Judge, you originally from DC. You went to you was born in DC. You went to school in LA. Have you been in Tennessee the longest?
Well, my mother's people are from Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
So we got back and forth often. My old man's folk are from Kansas City. As a matter of fact, my old man's dad was one of Bishop Mason's first disciples and took Kojic
Mm-hmm.
from Memphis up to Kansas City and opened up a Kojic church up there in 1896, I think it was.
Yeah.
So anyway, it is what
You
it is.
already had roots in Tennessee the whole time.
Yeah. So I had an aunt and uncle that were in Nashville, and
Mm-hmm.
the uncle, well, he was head coach at Pearl High School for years and usually took state championship for colored players in basketball. And right now up in Hadley Park, they named the tennis courts after him. So he was a hell of a tennis player, and he used to coach that too. They had broad programs. So he and my aunt went to Tennessee A&I, Tennessee Agricultural and Industrial, and that's now Tennessee State.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And my grandfather occasionally was a visiting professor at Meharry Medical Institute, which was interesting. But even though I guess they would be bourgeoisie, granddad on one side did into deputy sheriff for helping lynch one of my uncles.
Mm.
And the other one is what it is. And he wasn't pushover, but he was in a different era. Whereas my maternal grandfather died in 1952, my paternal grandfather didn't die until 1971 or 2, I think. So anyway, different era, 20 years difference. They both made it over 100.
That's a good lifestyle. I think nowadays, like the foods we consume and the things we do, 100 years, boy. That's a whew.
Well, you want to hear what the food was they consumed? Hot dogs, wieners. They
But
didn't put
they
them in.
made them themselves, though, didn't they?
No, they bought them, but they didn't put them in the refrigerator. They just kept them in a drawer, but not too long so they didn't get tainted.
Yeah.
They had ice boxes literally where they put ice in. Man, we used to go to Jackson to stay with grandfather, and the ice man would come down in his horse-drawn wagon, and he'd have ice.
Mm-hmm.
And I took somebody to a soul food place, good soul food place. Oh, this comes out of cans. Where is the fresh food? I said, well, dude, back when my mother was in her prime, nobody wanted fresh food because that meant you had to pick it. So they were people who had, they all wanted cans because that was the healthy thing. Campbell's Soup used to have advertisements 70 years ago. Mother, when you put the can in and you cook it, notice the fat globules floating on the surface to show nutrition and health for your children. I can remember the school nurse saying, boys and girls, tell your mother never to cut the fat off the meat. Always eat the fat, and you should never use vegetable shortening. You should always use lard or bacon grease. Always save the bacon grease to cook your food in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way they roll. They never always get the fattier cuts. That's why our government rates the fattier cuts. and higher, AA, AAA quality, and that's good for you. Hell, what they were trying to get you to eat for my young life would be very bad for you now. And then when I was in college, they were doing stuff like milk is only fit for baby cows. Don't eat this, don't eat that. Now everybody's trying to eat it.
Yeah.
They have stuff like gluten free. Okay,
Yeah.
everybody wants gluten free. You know what gluten is? It's plant protein. So they started breeding plants to have extra protein because people were trying to say you shouldn't eat meat. So eat plant protein.
And
So they
they're
plants.
using gluten to create meat substitutes.
Yeah, but the gluten was the plant protein. So now nobody wants to eat gluten. But back then they wanted the gluten so they wouldn't have to eat animals.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes up and down, and you have to understand that for most of human existence, they didn't have refrigeration. Food had to be kept for a long period of time. It's 1843,
They canned it.
1869, 84. Where's your refrigeration? You didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Most places didn't even have toilets.
Yeah.
Sears Roebuck used to sell prefabricated houses. I used to work for Sears, so when I go upstairs in the stock room, the big one they had in LA that was 6 floors tall, and you go up in the stock room and work stocks, I used to love to look at the old catalogs. They'd actually mail order a house, prefabricated houses,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't even include toilets in them.
The toilets was outside. I forgot what my
Yeah,
grandmama told me they was called. They was called something specific.
Lose.
Lou.
Lou, skip to Lou, skip to
They
Lou,
used them.
skip to Lou.
It was a hole in
Wait,
the ground.
yeah, but you know that skip to Malou early in the morning?
Yeah.
Well, guess about it, somebody running out the back door on a skip there, and so
To
they can
get to
get
the
to the
loo.
toilet early in the morning. Gotta
Yeah.
go, gotta go. And you
Yeah.
kept the Sears Roebuck catalog out there to use for toilet paper.
That's
There's 1,000 pages. They sent them out free. And then they
yeah.
let you get extra ones if you sent them 11, 12 cents. And you started out selling, and I saw an article that refreshed my recollection. They started out selling watches and jewelry, and then they expanded to they even sold heroin. There were a lot of Civil War vets that had severe opiate addictions. They were amputees, they had injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
So heroin was supposed to cure you of opiate addiction. It was a refined opiate. And by the way, the article talked about how heroin came about. They're wrong about where it came from.
I thought heroin was an opioid.
It is,
It's
but
supposed to cure you from opioid addiction.
yeah, it was a form of opiate. But they had it wrong about where the name heroin came from and who was moving it. I know this because we had to go into it a lot of times when we were trying cases and experts were being qualified, and they'd go into what heroin's about. And they started doing it because the prosecution was losing cases because narco was saying we rushed in after we broke down the door with the warrant. We had knocked and announced we did, and we weren't in time, and we saw the toilet flush, and a brown solid was swirling around the toilet. Now, what's a brown solid swirling around the toilet? You see, without a foundation, the narcs couldn't say anything because heroin is not white, it's brown. And we went over this over and over. It was the Hershey Chocolate Company that came up and trademarked heroin, Hershey heroin. And see, it used to be labeled. They'd sell a syringe and 4 heroin doses for something like $25, maybe $50, depending on how much you got. This was a counter you could mail order. They didn't even have a Sears store until 1925. It was all mail order like Amazon.
All mail order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, they had the Sears catalog. You'd look it up, and you'd take the form in the back or write down the number.
And they would deliver it to you.
Yeah, but guess how you pay for it?
How you pay for it, Judge?
Stamps. Postage stamps. See, everything was by postage. So you'd buy something, you could buy stuff that would cost you $150 now. You could buy it for $1.20 worth of postage stamps.
Postage stamps.
So
Yeah.
you go get $1.20 worth of postage stamps, and nobody's going to steal postage stamps as it goes through the post office, but it was a medium of exchange, and the businesses would take it because they needed the postage stamps too.
Mm-hmm.
So people would pay for stuff in postage stamps, or they would get a postal money order. So they'd send that off, and Sears would send it by parcel express.
Why do you think money headed, Judge? Like, is it gonna transfer because it's on the phone now? I see people swiping their phone all the time. I'm
I know,
still, huh?
I know. But what
It's
happens
gonna
now
be
is this.
digitally on your hand or something, ain't it?
No, you know why it won't be?
Why is that?
I mean, it might be, but it won't be the primary use, because you know why?
Why is that?
What happens if everything hits the fan and you need a medium exchange to buy something life is sustaining, but you don't have any power, so you can't bring up what you have online? Do you think people are going to tolerate that? No.
No.
And why aren't they on the gold standard? Because it's
Hey,
bogus.
yeah, they ain't got no
Gold.
gold.
No, you know why? Okay, you invest in something and you get earnings on it. So your initial investment was $110,000, but you manage it and now it's worth 12.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
If it's all in gold, who says the world has that much mined gold in existence? If everybody is making profits, somewhere along the lines, there's a limit on how far you can go, because there's not enough gold to go around.
Yes, sir.
So if the government is sufficiently powerful, they can use ice cream sticks.
That's true though.
It's the medium of exchange. I have 20 camels and 140 sheep and 65 milk cows. I'm a rich man. He
So
is.
now,
But he can't carry them around. So he can sell some of them and get cowrie shells, beads, money that are agreed upon as a medium of exchange. So people say this represents 5 cows. So they know if they take this medium of exchange and give it to somebody else, they can buy 5 cows with it.
mm-hmm,
So that's what money is about. Money,
the exchange of something of value.
value for something else of value.
Yeah.
So that's what that's about. The other thing is that money is only money if it has a powerful entity giving it a value. Now, why is the dollar worth what it is, and why is it the international medium of exchange? You know what the answer is? Simplifying it, the United States Navy has SSBNs, nuclear ballistic missile submarines, hiding under the Arctic Ocean. They can destroy anything on the planet.
So fear.
It's power.
The fear is what's making the dollar.
No, it's power, even if you don't fear it.
Mm-hmm.
It's raw power. The law still embraces might of main. In other words, the might of power. All right. The right, he holds it by right of conquest. See, the Native Americans were dispossessed by what was the operative phrase, right of conquest. Now, some of the settlers had immediate and remote ancestors who had been displaced by right of conquest. In other words, hey, look, I kick your goddamn ass. I kicked your ass. It's mine. So you
Yeah.
do what the hell I tell your ass to do.
Yeah.
And whether that was a medieval baron or earlier than that, the Roman legions and the emperor, or the chief counsel telling you that.
So
Right.
whatever we own, we own, we the ones
We
with
kicked your
power
ass, took it, and we owned it.
and deal with it. And if I'm thinking about it, back to the Black History Month topic. If black people want something, are they gonna have to take it?
Well, and somebody told me long ago that the Indians had a problem. The guy who was talking to me was white. He said, I was in the 82nd Airborne, June 6, 1944, and I was in the D-Day invasion.
Yes,
God,
sir.
if I wasn't hollering Geronimo when I jumped out that DC-3 in the dark of night. And God damn it, if I hadn't cut my ass a mohawk hairstyle. He said, you know something black folk need to understand? They name places and trains after Indians. They don't name any damn thing except Martin Luther King Boulevard and Booker T. Washington High School after black folk. He said, I'm not getting on you, but you ought to think about that because nobody respects anybody that won't stand up for themselves. And I remember in elementary, junior high, and high school, we didn't respect
That's
anybody that
deep,
didn't
Joe.
stand up for themselves, even if the school was all black.
That's
So
deep, Joe.
if it was valid for us, why the hell do you think it's invalid for everybody else? So like somebody said, well, we fought for our rights. Somebody said, civil rights. Yes, the civil rights struggle.
But the civil rights leader was telling us to be civil.
No. Here's what the reply was. Ain't much of a struggle when you're down on your damn knees and a redneck beating you across the head and just some other rednecks feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
That's not fighting. That's getting your ass kicked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And you know what it looks like?
What it look like, Joe?
Poor Oscar has not known love. And he's been chained in the backyard in a kennel this winter. And it's up to you to show Oscar love. So send $19 a month to ASPCA, American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Send $19.95 or $19 a month to save the tiger under the World Wildlife Fund.
Until we feel sorry for you.
$19 a month to save the elephants,
Mm-hmm.
etc. Save $19. Send $19 a month to the NAACP to save a Negro. You know,
That's true. That's crazy.
send $19 a month to the Democratic National Committee to save a Negro. Oops,
You got me thinking about the
Where's the cover?
conversation. You got me thinking about the conversation that everybody's having about reparations. And I don't, me personally, I think we got to give ourselves reparations. I don't think that we'll ever get reparations for some people. It's I didn't ask you this question yet, Judge. A person asked me to ask you, do you think that black people have a community or we're dependent on other races for food, finances?
Ask the question, do we have a culture? And remember, Black history is to learn the lessons of the past, to apply those lessons to the present so that tomorrow will be what you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
What is the lesson? You have to get respect even if you lose. White folk fight it out. Even black folk used to fight it out, duke it out. And the guy that won might wind up working for the guy that lost if the guy that lost put up a good fight and he's reliable and he's smarter than the big guy. Or maybe the smaller guy became the big guy's right-hand man because he was the brain behind the throne.
Yeah.
See, that's the way it works. People have respect. That worked in the black system too. So why does anybody think that any other human, just because they've got a different color scheme, doesn't work on that same principle?
Mm-hmm.
It's like this thing about respect and who gets named anything after. And it's like this guy that talked about jumping out of the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
He said, my Oh, he was in the 101st Airborne, and he jumped out the plane. Not the 82nd. They're Air Mobile 101st now. 82nd is Airborne paratroopers. But he said, I was with the 101st also at Bastogne. Hell, my old man was there with the Red Ball Express. They gave him an M1. He had an M1 carbine, and they gave him lots of ammunition when his trucks got wiped out. He was a platoon sergeant at the time. He was infantry, got the infantry badge, but combat infantry badge. But this guy said, hell, and damn Crouch shot me in my ass twice. And he said, but I got a damn Mercedes in the driveway. He said, my brother got shot a few times in Iwo Jima, and the Japanese were trying to kill him. But we got a Japanese car in the driveway too. The Toyota.
Yeah.
He said, like I said, I was yelling Geronimo when I jumped out on June 6th, D-Day.
Yeah.
He said, and, you know, hell, my wife is part Cherokee, half Cherokee. I ain't holding against her.
Mm-hmm.
And ain't nobody this white done ever turned their nose up at her.
Mm-hmm.
They would say the same about black folk. He said, you know why? He said, y'all will fight for us, but that's like dogs will go kill wolves, track down foxes and other stuff for white folk, all black folk, but the wolf is on his own. He can hunt for himself. He doesn't need anybody to open up his kibbles and bits.
Yeah.
And the other thing about reparations is how the hell we gonna get reparations and our representatives don't represent us? They're surrogates. We vote for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're representing somebody else. Go to followthemoney.org and see who owns your black politician.
I gotta put that in my phone. Let me write that down.
Now, just follow the money.org.
Let me-
And then the other thing too is,
I'm listening, Judge.
what are we gonna do about the fact that there is a reality? We're the only race or ethnicity that belongs to a specific political party these days. We didn't always belong to it.
So we belong. We belong to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and we started off that way, I guess, since the Democratic Party was incorporated and chartered in the second decade of the early 19th century to protect and spread slavery in the Louisiana Purchase.
Mm-hmm.
The Republicans were chartered 1851 for the specific purpose of ending slavery and for abolition.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I said, black folk did not vote Democrat until 1960, except for Harry Truman and FDR, because he put them to work. And Harry Truman signed Executive Order 1981, integrating the armed services, and a whole lot of veterans from World War I and World War II, and then shortly from Korea was saying, yeah, that stuff about being in a segregated unit ain't cool at all. And a lot of folk now say, yeah, segregation was the best thing for us. No, it was not.
Segregate.
We had unity, but it was not self-dictated unity. It was imposed. And that's like that dog thing again. The dog can be well trained, but the dog has no choice over the matter. He is compelled to act acceptably as far as the master is concerned. And as far as the Democratic Party is concerned, we are the only ethnic group that is invariably loyal to any party. Most ethnic groups every 5 to 10 years flip-flop, depending upon who they're getting something from.
Who they getting something from.
So the equation now is no matter what they don't do for us, we'll vote Democratic. No matter what they try to do for us, we won't vote Republican.
Mm-hmm.
So the Democratic Party has no incentive to do anything for us because they don't have to. And the Republican Party has no incentive to do anything for us because they won't gain anything if they do. So neither party gives a damn about us because we don't count.
We don't. I feel like you brought up something that made me think, Judge. Like those other people, those other ethnic groups or whatever, they switch every 10 years because they're unified in their agenda.
Well, yeah, but the other thing is that isn't even unification of the gender. They're comfortable with what they are. See, let me tell you something.
Talk to me.
I used to have every somebody I sentenced psychologically analyzed. And you'd be surprised at the suicidal ideation in black folk and the self-hate black folk have for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten worse because 1968, we were almost there. It was, I'm black and I'm proud. Black power. Don't need to give me a damn thing. Just open up the door and I'll do it for myself. I'll yank your ass the hell out the door so I can get it myself. Now we don't think we can do anything unless somebody lets us. I hear this dialogue you can see on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's when are they going to give us?
Yeah.
When are they going to let us? They need to stop holding us back. Damn it. If you're a real man or woman, nobody can hold your ass back because they can't. I mean, you may no more than they can hold anybody else back because you can find a way around it.
Mm-hmm.
We do this thing with the NBA, but we still have a problem with lack of black folk and black management in the NBA ownership.
Mm-hmm.
But we have the economic clout to do it. But then again, we could start a lot of businesses. But are we fooling ourselves? I had some black folk that were in the UCLA econ department in the 1987 when I consulted with them because I was just out there on a visit. We talked about it. And their conclusion was, how the hell are black folk going to be economically sufficient and come up with something that's reality rather than all these excuses about being suppressed by white folk? You know what the main is with black people?
You helped me a lot, Judge, tonight when you said we don't have to modify laws or change the game. You just got to learn how to play it.
But here's what they said about why we can't have any economic development. Said, do you know if the average population spent 10 to 20% of their income on economic development, they'd be rich?
Mm-hmm.
You know what black folk do?
Destroy.
Where does it go?
Oh, we spend money on material items, and where it goes, Judge? Back to
this morning. We got to show the Lord to tell that we love.
Oh my!
We gotta spread the word.
Oh yeah.
I want to hear it in the play. Don't want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Yeah.
If we need tithe, we gotta show the Lord that we love him. 20%.
Yeah.
I died 25% of my income.
I learned something, Judge. Me and my wife went to DC on my birthday, January 22nd. I went to that museum, that new museum, the big old museum. And
14th Street, is it? No, that's another one. Okay.
It's a real big museum though. And in the museum, it's the bottom of it is the slavery part, and the up part is when blacks started creating and stuff. I didn't know that the Africans that got transported to America had to turn Christian before they could come here. I didn't know that before they had to adopt Christianity. So what was the religion, or what did they believe in before they became Christian?
Most of us came from West Africa. And if you were Yoruba, your chief gods are Nigerian, which 90-some% of black Americans came from Nigeria. You were either Islamic because you were influenced by the House of Fulani in northern Nigeria, or you were animist and your chief gods were Dambala, Okotie, and Nagumbi, god of wisdom, iron, and control of yourself. That's what they represented in essence. There are other names for them. You had their agents, like it morphed into Baton Sunday for voodoo and stuff. And one of the other things is that's why you got this cult with the dead rising, the zombie,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. That's the animism that came over from Africa. And you might reflect on what that has to do with Black folks' acceptance of Christianity. I won't tell you because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and I hurt enough as it is.
Hey,
But it'll come.
feelings don't matter on this show. I'm here to
No, but I'm saying
uh,
I'm running for mayor, and I appreciate everybody's religion, but it might explain why Black folk are so susceptible to a certain religion. But honestly, Hispanics come over and they're Christians too, but they're Catholic and they put in 2 or 3 pennies, maybe a dime or a quarter. But we put in 1/4 of our income trying to
Ooh,
bribe our way in.
to get
The
accepted.
Irish do the same thing that the Catholic Mexicans do, the same thing that the Catholic Italians do, the same thing that the Protestant English do, or the Scotch, or the Protestant Irish. So what do? We put in 1/4 of our income,
Mm.
and most of it doesn't even make it back. Is it the secretary for the church the payment for the church secretary? It goes to fur coat bills and Chrysler and
Yeah.
Cadillac,
Chop house bills.
Mercedes and BMW and Bentley and
Yeah.
Rolls
Louis
bill,
Vuitton purses.
yeah, and all of this other stuff, and it goes to mortgage companies in Pennsylvania, New York, Miami, and doesn't stay home.
Yeah.
So maybe we might serve the Lord by performing a little bit better, and that might make it more attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And then Islam does a lot of good things for the Black community. When something's going wrong, the Nation of Islam comes in and they'll usually clean it up quickly. That happens in Memphis. The typical Muslim outlook is to know Allah, you have to know his works. So they study and try to know nature. And that's why they came up with Arabic numbers, algebra, trigonometry, and stuff like that. And they preserved the ancient writings and investigations and discoveries. And to us, once you learn the Bible, even if you're a scientist, if you can't get your head squared away, you don't really get into what else you're doing. It's just like a video game where
Yeah.
you learn the arcane rules. Same thing with the fanatics in Islam too, but the ones that learn it, they get into to know Allah, you must know his works and you must know nature. And by the way, it's not really a him, it's not a her, it's a force, but it's easier to portray it as a him
It's
than a force.
human to make other people accept it.
Yeah, and we get caught up in the imagery. They won't allow any imagery. Same thing with the Jews too. They don't have any imagery or
I didn't think about
that, but Christianity does. And Christianity adopted the imagery because they were trying to persuade the Roman Empire to normalize them. So, what's God? Well, instead of a spirit or force, think of a super Jupiter or a super Saturn. So they got the image of the old man in the dirty white robe and whatever.
Yeah.
And then see, the interesting thing about it is angels. What's an angel? It's immortal. It lives in another plane. It can intervene in people's existence. So when you go through the angels, what's the difference between them and the Greco-Roman gods and goddesses?
Yeah.
So what are you doing? You just had a transposition.
Mm-hmm.
Judaism is interesting. For the first 300 or 400 years, Christianity was considered a odd Jewish sect. And the difference is to be a good Jew, you had to know about your religion, be tested in it, and such like.
Mm-hmm.
Christianity, that wasn't necessary if you had faith that your anointed leaders would lead you or guide you appropriately. So ignorance was encouraged. And then Islam got back to the original monotheistic thing as it is considered, since they are all people of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge is a great thing. So what did we get? We got, you don't need to know anything past this Bible. So you forgot about yourself and you lost culture. Let me ask you this. What's the first planet from the sun? It's called Mercury. What's Mercury? That's a Greco-Roman god. The
Mm-hmm.
next one is Venus. What is that? That's a Greco-Roman goddess. The next one is what? Is it Earth? It's Terra. That's also a Greco-Roman god. All
Yeah.
right. The next one is Mars. That's the Greco-Roman god of war. The next one is Jupiter. That's the All-Father, Greco-Roman. Saturn. That's the Greco original. That's the All-Father. And then you have Uranus, Neptune, etc. And then each of the large planetoids or asteroids has a Greco-Roman god is named after. And then what do they call the other stuff? The Thor intermediate range ballistic missile. And we look at Marvel Comics where we
Oh,
have Thor, and then
Thor.
we have Odin and Valhalla, and whatever it may be. So they haven't forgotten the ancestral gods. Their current religion is an overlay. But do black folk have any ancestral gods? Most of us have never even heard of them. So
That's
there's
true.
nothing overlaying.
Mm.
So what is black? Sagging pants? But Hispanics wear those too.
Jay-Z. They'll say Jay-Z is the black god. That's what most.
Okay. Is Adidas or Nike tennis shoes? Is that black?
It-
Is Gucci jeans and Levi's? Is that black?
yeah. Yeah.
You know, the shirts
Mm-hmm.
with somebody's picture on it or somebody's name on it you selling, is that black?
We
You wear
identify as
a
that.
Kango hat coming out of Canada, is that black? What in here is black? The black music, well, yeah, but that's become universal. How about soul food?
Mm.
Down here in Memphis, black folk go to a certain place that sells soul food and the white folk run it. It's great stuff. Just went there today. You walk into a soul food place in the South, you know, in Tennessee, you
The
will
best.
just as likely find a white cook as a black one.
And the best
Black
food.
folk, yeah. So it's white and black. It ain't black. It's
Mm-hmm.
just poor folk food in the South.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chitlins, the British call them chitterlings.
Yeah.
And that was offal left over to the lower class. So when most of them got over here with lower class, the big folk ate what? High on the hog, and the other folk ate low on the hog. And
Mm-hmm.
occasionally they fed the slaves the offal, chitterlings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the English eat chitlins too. And it's interesting. So is that black food?
No.
So tell me where we getting black here and what black culture
I
is.
don't know now to think about it. I don't know what black is in its totality. Black.
You
I
know
don't know
what it
what
is
white
when you
is.
see it.
I don't know what white is neither though.
But you know what it is when you see it. You can't define it. It's like define it tastes good.
Yeah.
I like steak, but I can't tell you how to define a good steak from a bad one. It's tender, it's juicy, it's flavorful. Okay, what does that mean? Some people like it well done. I like the damn thing still half alive.
Mm-hmm.
But what does it mean? See, it's subjective.
Mm.
So here's what I would propose. There is a black culture,
Yeah.
but what we don't realize is our black culture is an amalgam of everybody else's
That's culture. Golly. We
And
all
where we fool ourselves, we have yet to develop an original, unique culture.
mhm,
Our culture is,
the world. The whole world mixed up
which
in
makes
one.
us, guess what? We have a parallel, but we don't have the power because we don't know about it. Guess who was last in that position? The Roman Empire. They were an amalgam of everybody else's culture, everybody else's religion. Even their own religion wasn't unique to them because it was essentially Greek. And that was essentially from the Middle East.
That's interesting, Joe. That's interesting. That's real
So,
interesting.
are there Aryan supermen from the far north, blonde haired, blue eyed?
Aryan. What's the next word?
Aryan supermen. Remember the Nazis, the Aryan
Yeah.
Brotherhood, the Aryan Nation, the Nazi claim to fame with the blonde haired, blue eyed supermen.
Mm-hmm.
There were Aryans, but they're dark haired, they're swarthy and dark eyed, and they come from India.
Mm.
They're called anthropologically Indo, Indo from India, Indus River Valley, hyphen Aryan. So you see the lie told long and loud by the Nazis and everybody nowadays, including the Aryan nation, Aryan Brotherhood. They fell for the myth that the Aryans were blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Well, the Aryans had a lot to do with the settlement of India, but they were swarthy
Yeah.
or dark. They're still classified as Caucasian, but they ain't too high bright.
Yeah.
So see the myths that gets banded around.
Mm-hmm. People just twist and tangle up all sorts of things. Like when I talk to some guys that they are they say that their Hebrew Israelite is a people, and some people say Hebrews is a religion. Which one is it?
Well, your classic Jews and your classic Arabs, the classic ones, are genetically identical. They're known as Semites.
Mm-hmm.
So they're killing each other now because of differences in a religion.
Mm-hmm.
If you get into history, you find out some interesting things that are recorded around that part of the world during the times in question that make you wonder whether or not you're looking at ethnic cleansing, spreading the word, and whether somebody was always this way or maybe they were another way. See, that's history, and history can be turned around. Now, the Nazis relied on a truth that is inherent in a propaganda method. You tell a lie long enough and loud enough, and you can get anybody to believe it, including the liar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when people start saying things about black folk long and loud, let's say 50 years, people believe them like it's true. And a lot of the stuff I hear now, I consider complete nonsense because it doesn't have anything to do with black folk. It's got to do with mythology that was spread deliberately so that they could emasculate the black race
Mm.
because they wanted to emasculate everybody.
Yeah.
And that would be like trying to get rid of femininity. It's bad. Just like woman haters are as bad as man haters
Mm-hmm.
because they don't fit into the scheme of Mother Nature.
A lot of these individuals are people haters. They just in it for the profit.
That's because they self hate because they don't like themselves.
Ooh.
From my perspective, you see, we were in the I'm black and I'm proud, bestowing self love on the people.
Mm-hmm.
And now what's getting spread is actually, when you analyze it, hatred.
Mm-hmm.
We get into white supremacy because it dovetails right in with hating yourself.
Yeah.
You have somebody you can scapegoat for hating you
They don't
because
even have to put in work no more because the the hate done spread so much that they don't have to do nothing.
And now you can blame that for you hating yourself. See, I noticed something that worked well on rehabilitating folk. When you get them to do something positive, they start doing positive stuff because they don't hate themselves anymore.
Yeah, they start to love themselves and they start growing and
You have pride. It's like what they do in the military, or that at least they used to. They'd take a raw recruit, they'd confront him with a situation he did not think he could handle. No way, no how. They'd break him down and almost tear him apart. But they would build him up so at the end, hey, I did it, man. What did I accomplish? Wow, man, I did it.
yeah.
That's like guys used to walk around with the football, track, basketball, baseball, wrestling letters
Mm-hmm.
on their chest. See, you lettered with the varsity, you did something. You passed this, you did something.
That's back what us talking about. People have to identify themselves with something.
So when you make somebody a member of the varsity and you let him accomplish it, and he gets a letter on the chest that says M or W, I'm a real man, or I'm a real woman, then they can stick it out, swagger,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes, sir.
And when you can swagger, you do things.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put it in check, because you might get out of line. But that's what it's about. And you see, we don't do that. Everything's about why even bother, man. I'm gonna sit on the couch, smoke myself a blunt, play my big games, man. My ladies take care of me. I ain't got time for all this, man. White supremacy holding me down anyway. I ain't gonna do nothing demeaning, man. Ain't that the word, man? I got respect for myself. That ain't gonna get me doing. Put the word in there, whatever you come up with.
I appreciate that, Judge. That's back to the education. You brought it back to the front of the pile with that. What we
Yeah,
were talking about at first.
and see, white supremacy is just adversity.
Mm-hmm.
Germans fought the French, French fought the Germans, the barbarians fought the Romans, Romans fought the barbarians, Greeks fought the Persians, Persians fought the Greeks, the Egyptians fought the Hittites, Hittites fought the Egyptians, you name it. You get the Hami, and the Hami fought my ancestors. In fact, the Yoruba used to consider the Hamians as their slaves, and my
Mm-hmm.
ancestor was a Yoruba who got captured by the Dahamians, and all that stuff about glorifying the enslavement of the people. I don't buy that. I don't like it. It gets me
And
motivated.
it's crazy when you say about the other individuals fighting each other. Now we got brothers fighting each other right across the street from.
Yeah, but the point is, they have no purpose. See, when you're fighting each other because you're in a condition of despair, when you have an adversity that scares you, you are not dealing with your primary adversary. Now,
Ooh,
some of,
who was the adversary, Judge? I just
well,
want.
let's put it this way. Some of our people used to call adversity Simba. And Simba weighed 450 pounds, had a big line, was kind of tawny and liked to eat us every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
But 13-year-old boys, for a rite of passage, had to do or die and come back with a dead Simba with a wooden spear with no iron head at 13.
Yes, sir.
So if our ancestors can kill off Simba, they could actually kill you and eat you. What is white supremacy but a remote form of adversity that we ought to love to test ourselves against by beating it?
Mm-hmm.
See, let me tell you something. The lesson of my life, which reflects a lot of Black history, is that don't nothing come to you for nothing. You ain't gonna get nothing if you won't stand up for it unless you are a pet, a dog. I like dogs, but I wouldn't want to be one.
Mm-hmm.
Wolves, maybe. Wolves don't need to have anybody open the kibbles and bits. They hunt,
They
and
go get
people
it.
fear them. So you respect the wolf.
Yeah.
And what do they call it? The wolf pack. That was the German
A pack of them.
Unterseebooten,
Yeah.
the submarines, the U-boats that sank all those ships. Wolf pack. That's what they call them. Every time you want to get up, wolves, the wolves of the sea, the wolves of the prairie.
What would we call the opposite of the wolf pack? A pack of
Chihuahuas.
Golly. The people that's not going to go get it themselves. You got to go get it. That was I like.
Make a lot of noise. Bark, 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 bark. And anything can tear up a chihuahua. Though I will say, as an amusing side adjunct, we used to keep charts on deaths by dogs and other animals.
Mm-hmm.
Some fit human, not disabled, adult was killed by a chihuahua. Frankly, if I was in the family, I'd hide that in embarrassment.
Yeah.
But I mean, even the worst dog has his day. But yap, 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 yap. At least the badass dogs, people stay on the other side of the street.
Bad dog don't say nothing and just walk.
Yeah. They stay on the other side of the street. Nobody wants to have anything to do with him. They don't walk down that sidewalk.
Yeah.
So it ain't nobody messing with Brother Wolf out there in the wild, you know.
No. Now you know better.
People gotta find a tree. And then a lot of folk meet their demise because guess what? Wolves can climb trees too.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. So be the wolf.
And then what do they call that thing? A werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
Werewolf.
Be the wolf.
Werewolf. Werewolf.
Werewolf. Yeah.
Yeah. Wolf.
That's a different level now. Werewolf.
Yeah. Nosferatu. That's vampire. Then you got the lichen.
The lichen. I remember reading.
The movie.
Looking at the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was liking a lot. That's the name for it if you're getting into German. I mean, they had.
And that's where that stuff was created at, wasn't it? The idea of it was Germany.
Well, East Europe.
Yeah.
See, they had to live in these deep forests, and wolves were a bitch when it came to people. They'd eat up people all the time. And they had a war going on, you know, people up until the last few hundred years, wolves were a threat.
So that's not a movie. That's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
If you ever looked at a California flag, what's on it?
Yeah, the bear. Ain't
Grizzly
that the
bear?
Yeah.
Grizzly.
Yeah.
California used to be crowded with grizzly bears. Grizzly bears will kill you. And, you know, I used to mess with the folk at the studio where the lot was where they take me, Judge Judy, and divorce court with Maybelline Ephraim. It used to be known for its grizzly bear hunting back in the 19th century after California became a state. And in that very area, quite a few people were killed by grizzly bears. Now folk just walk to their cars and get in them and complain about where on the lot they have to park and how far away from their offices that happens to be located. They don't have to worry about dodging 800, 900,000 pound Bruins that will eat you up. What is the mascot for the University of California? It's a bear, UCLA Bruins.
Yeah.
Cal Bruins, you know, Berkeley Bruins.
And that's the real bear. That ain't like that East Tennessee bear, the black bear that be in the street.
I've seen a grizzly bear, witnessed it. I used to live in Aspen, Colorado one time, did a lot of skiing. I saw a large male grizzly pick up a fully loaded dumpster and turn that bad boy on the side.
That's the size of, that's probably the weight of 10 humans.
Yeah, and then they used to have signs when you go hiking in the summer. It says, it is strongly advised you carry a very strong bear spray or a large caliber pistol,
Hmm.
such as 41 Magnum, 44 Magnum, 454
And
Castoo,
California, them gun laws too harsh to be carrying a pistol, ain't it?
or six. No, this is on the trail. It's suggested that you go in groups and make a lot of noise because you do not want to surprise a grizzly, many of which call this area home.
Mm.
And
And
we have these notices, like they have the amber notices on the freeway.
mm-hmm.
We'd have bear alerts because the bear would break in people's houses. They knew how to operate these windows where you turn the cranks and they go out. They could make those work. They knew how to take those sliding doors and open. So people would put bear boards. They'd take these wooden boards and put nails in them and put 6 feet of board between the windows of the doors and where the bear was. So the bear learned how to pry these things up. And interestingly, it's kind of funny. Bears have a better sense of smell than dogs, and they can smell beer in a can. And
Yeah.
they have their preferences. And guess what the bear's preferences was?
Oh,
I have
beer.
Budweiser. So people would report, and I had friends that would take pictures. They heard a noise, came down and in the kitchen, and the bear was sitting in the kitchen. Kitchen,
Drinking all
the
the beer.
refrigerator door wide open, and home bear is down there with a 6-pack of Budweiser. And the way they drink it, they like the cans. They put it in their mouth and they use their canine fangs to bite into it, turn it up and guzzle it. And these fools will get drunk. They'll go through a 6-pack and then keep reading it.
Oh, I hope Judge didn't his phone didn't die off.
Yeah, and then they go for the Budweiser over anything else. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I got up one morning, this house I had up there, and I walked out, and there was a damn bear sitting there like, hey, man, dude, I haven't met you before. What's your name?
Why the
Who are
bird?
you? Hey, yeah, bear.
Yeah.
And they'd have elk and black-tailed mule deer and everything coming up, and they'd come up. The foxes would stroll around, and I had 2 large 125-pound apiece Rhodesian Ridgebacks bred to hunt African lions, and they didn't take nothing from nobody. So they would sit there and stare down the bear or somebody else. They wouldn't growl at each other. They just, hey, man, it's my place, man.
Yeah.
Hey, what you gonna do, man? You gonna stare me down? Like, hey, all right, you can hang there. You look like you a badass, but the 2 of us, we tear your ass up.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the bird took off.
over there. No, bear just stand there. Bear might go to sleep, take a nap. Because you know why? He knows ain't nothing gonna happen because these 2 dogs have acclimated themselves to him, and they'll just have staring contests and they get bored and go to sleep. The dogs ain't going anywhere. It's kind of like America and the Soviet Union. The Soviet bear and the American eagle are having a stare down right there, and ain't nobody going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. So, point, black folk, learn from American history. You got to get it together, and ain't nothing going to be handed to you. The world doesn't work that way. So, yes, we earn reparations, but the point is, quit worrying about it until you get in the position to take it. Quit worrying about it until you elect some representatives who will use the legislative process to help you.
Yes, sir.
Be careful who you vote for because skin ain't kin and they may not look like you, and be prepared to get you some allies.
Yes, sir.
Churchill, FDR, and Stalin in the same picture. They didn't like each other, but they worked together because they disliked Adolf and Tojo more.
Yeah.
And they whipped up on Adolf and Tojo, and then as soon as they did that, they were at each other's throats again. or at least America and the Russians were. Great Britain is a third world power, held their former colonies. Canada, India, Pakistan, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia are all more powerful than what once used to be the world's greatest empire, where the sun never set on it. And the English Navy ruled the waves. Nothing floated on it without the permission of the Royal Navy.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. is in that position, but just like Great Britain was 100 years ago, he's losing it.
And they don't need to lose it because people dislike the United States. But Judge, can we make this happen again, Judge? How I got to get up with you so we can be able to make it happen again?
Okay, now here's what I'm trying to do. Everybody talks about Black Wall Street, Tulsa, but that was 100 years ago. Right now, we can have another, not Black Wall Street, where the black folk don't own any property. By the way, they rented it property. Everything was rental because Native Americans owned it. And we rented it. That side of my family rented it in Tulsa. But we can own Memphis. That can be our Mecca for the 21st century. It is the trade and distribution nexus of North America. It can be with the water power that is generated by the currents around Memphis in the Mississippi, the industrial center of the country. There's no smog inversion layer. It's 65% black. We should be able to take control of this, and instead of selling our brothers and sisters out, we should make it the new black Mecca for the 21st century. But guess what?
Yes, sir.
First one got knocked out 100 years ago. This one's just going to start 100 years later. So we had a hiatus. So we'll take off where they left off. So Memphis, send Brown downtown and take back your town. JJB for mayor of Memphis in 2023. It's yours to take. It's yours to make. It's where you belong. Make it long. Take it over. It is your thing. You don't have to focus on bling. Get to reality. Get your jobs. Get the big bucks. Don't jive and shuck, but get yourself together and it will be yours and we can hang together. So JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown and take back your town.
And we thank you, Judge.
And one other thing,
Yes,
commercial
sir.
break.
Yes, sir.
I also sell that sauce, jjbbbq.com, jjbbbq.com.
And all the links to everything that the judge was talking about is going to be in the description of this show. If you want to donate to the Cash App and support Judge Joe Brown's movement, we highly appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in to the show.
All right.
The Trevor Jackson Podcast.